astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
And what's going on, everyone? It's Jaron from Jaronism back with another. There we go. Got the wrong screen up. That's going to be better. Whew, scared me for a second. Welcome to the show, everybody. I know it's the second one of the day. Hopefully you are still having as equally good day as you had the first time I asked you. We are going to have an interview with Brad Olson. Just met him for the first time, and we're happy that you're here, Brad. And let's start with Dave. Dave, welcome to the show again.
Hey, thanks. And very excited to talk to Brad. Amazing researcher, prolific author, speaker on ancient civilizations and all sorts of stuff. Welcome, Brad.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on. Took us a while to get this set up, but once we're here, should be a great show.
And Brad has been to Antarctica. Some people from our view of the Earth were pinging him like, hey, you got to talk to Dave Weiss. Ended up connecting us. I emailed Brad. We went back and forth. We had a discussion, and we said, hey, let's the three of us talk. I just want to read something real quick from Brad's website. His first book I'm looking at is Entering the Matrix. Very interesting book. But if I go down to his book called Modern Esoteric, and it says, World Explorer magazine editor Brad Olson examines the flaws in ancient and modern history, plus explains how esoteric knowledge, conspiracy theories, and fringe subjects can be used to help change the dead-end course we humans seem to be blindly running ourselves into. Sounds just like something that we would say. One more thing from beyond esoteric. Nothing in this world works the way we are led to believe. What led to believe it does. There is always more to the story. Be aware that there is a war being waged for your body, mind, and soul. Owners of corporations have taken over governments in a new form of fascism and now incorporates high technology and artificial intelligence. The survival of the human race may depend on breaking the truth embargo, that is, exposing the big lie. Another one that sounds like something exactly like we would say. So I think we have a ton of common ground here. Jaron and I are going to present some new ideas to you, and let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm interested in knowing, about Antarctica, number one. I mean, how long were you there? What were you there for? What can you tell us about it? Yeah,
I think I'm one of the only researchers in this field who actually made it down there and filmed it. I did a 16-part show on Sci-Spy TV about Antarctica by sail. So we spent almost a month on a sailboat from Ushuaia, Argentina, which is the southernmost city in the world. Mm-hmm. And I drove a Ford Expedition that I bought in Santiago, Chile. I put about 3,000 miles on that vehicle, went up to Peru, then back down through Argentina all the way to Ushuaia, where my partner at the time and I got passage on the Chief 1 sailboat, which was out of Gdansk, Poland, and they had just sailed it down there a few months ago on the maiden voyage to Antarctica with a new captain and a co-captain who were very competent, but they steered us right on the tail end of a storm to try to make up some time because our keel got stuck in it was in the mud on a very low tide when we intended to leave. They didn't foresee that one. Mm-hmm. But tides, there's another thing that has to do with flat Earth versus a spherical Earth. And Indeed. So we got out. We finally made the turn into the Drake Passage. It was a very rough passage. I threw up for 3 days. I lost about 25 pounds. And we got into the Southern Ocean and went to it's called the Pan-Antarctic Islands that are surrounding the Palmer Peninsula, was the part of Antarctica I got to see for 15 full days. And every day was a new adventure, a new destination, stepped ground terra firma on the Palmer Peninsula, as well as half a dozen islands.
What time of year did you go?
And it's a very beautiful, desolate, snowy, locked-in place. But it's also the portion that I was at, very mountainous as well, and quite dramatic. If you know the Maroon Bells outside of Aspen, Colorado, just these sheer granite cliffs. Saw that on several occasions. Some really spectacular mountains down there on the Palmer Peninsula.
What time did you go? What time of year?
Well, you can only really go
January.
Once again, a spherical Earth proof, I would say. You can only go during the summer months down there,
right?
Which is basically end of November to early March. So right now, there are no tourists down there. There is a skeleton crew at some of the bases, but only 1,000 people on the entire continent right now. So being the 5th largest continent of the world, it's kind of remarkable that there could be so few people there. But that's what it is.
So do you remember, was it January, December, or was it more on the March, November side?
Okay, so we left on 3rd week of January, and we got back at about mid-February.
And okay, so when you said you were a month, you weren't in the sailboat for a month.
Yes, we were.
No, but I mean, it didn't take a month to get there.
Oh, no.
Okay, gotcha.
No, okay. So from Ushuaia to our first drop anchor, which was off of King George Island at the Arktowski Polish Research Base, it took 92 hours, so just under 4 days, which is actually a really good time for a sailboat. Most of the boat traffic leaves from Ushuaia. It is the closest connection between South America and the Palmer Peninsula. So even all the cruise ships leave out of Ushuaia, but they can go a lot faster than a sailboat. So they can get down there in 2 days, but they usually only stick around for 5 to 7 days and then 2 days back. We were 4 days down, 15 full days down there, and then 6 days back because we had to tack back and forth, and we took a vote on the boat, and we wanted to see Cape Horn, which is a very pyramidal mountain at the very southern tip of South America.
I thought you said gay porn. Like, what is going on down there?
Hey, Jaron, sorry to interrupt.
Get your mind out of the gutter.
Sorry.
Something just happened on my OBS, and all my settings on the bottom disappeared. I just have the 2 windows and the transition thing in the middle,
so go up
and
to
I can't even turn on my virtual camera.
Yeah, go up to the top where it says view.
View?
Where it's at. There's one where you can reset the
docs. Reset UI.
Yeah, do that one. We should reset the whole thing back to how you want it to look.
All right, I'm back in. Okay. Thank you.
You
scared me.
You almost had a heart attack there. I want to show you something real quick and just ask you, Brad, if this is kind of what you saw. Shoot, let me get this screen up here 1 second. Because you mentioned, you said ice cliffs or something. What was? How did you describe it?
Granite walls. Very steep granite walls. As I mentioned, if you've ever seen the Grand Tetons in Wyoming or the Maroon Bells in Colorado, it reminded me of those mountains, sheer rock faces. There were some of those mountains that were very technical climbs and have only been summited, one of them in 1991, just in the last few decades. So there's still a lot of uncharted and unclimbed mountains in Antarctica.
So that's like
Brad, they say that Antarctica is the highest land on Earth and it has mountains that are higher than Everest. Is that your understanding?
No,
it's not true.
Tallest mountain in Antarctica is Vinson Massif, and it's almost close to where that red line is, sort of at the base of the Palmer Peninsula.
I think they say it's the tallest.
14,650, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think they say it's
about as big as Mount Shasta, basically.
The highest on average, Dave. Is what
okay. That I was just wondering about the mountains. I wasn't sure about that.
Well, you might be onto something, Dave. It is the highest elevation continent because of the 2 miles of ice that cover the polar plateau.
Sure. So let me give you just Jerry, were you pulling up something?
Yeah, I just wanted to show him like the ice shelves and see if this is what he's talking about. Or
go ahead.
So here in these, this kind of sheer drop-off wall here.
Yeah, those are the ice shelves.
And these is what you saw. They look like this.
We saw some of those, but we also saw continental land, quite more continental land. Those shelves, of course, can go on for miles and miles. You have the Ross Sea, the Larsen ice shelf A and B, and sometimes those are calving off glaciers that are ginormous. In fact, the very first thing we saw related to Antarctica, besides penguins in the ocean, were floating icebergs before we even caught sight of land, which was, like I said, King George Island.
So you saw like these kind of floating around, having to get
There were we had three names for icebergs. There were the big ones; those are the icebergs, and then the other ones that could do damage to your boat were called bergies. These are the nicknames we call them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the smaller ones are growlers. And we had to take turns on the boat pushing them away, kind of like one of those photos you just shot. You don't want to hit the growlers, bergies, or icebergs, but the icebergs are so huge that a boat would just go boing, knock right into it.
Now I've watched
but you're not showing any pictures of the continental landmass, and there's quite a few, and I could even show you what I have.
Antarctic,
well, I even show you.
What would I search?
We have no doubt there's plenty of continental land there. In 1950s, when Admiral Byrd went out there, he said there's land bigger than America filled with resources that no human has ever set eyes upon.
Right.
And that makes sense in our model. So just real quick, what flat Earth is one thing we know, and we can scientifically prove, is large bodies of water at rest need a container. If you had a pond and the container of the pond is the land that's consistently higher than the pond all the way around. And if you lowered part of that, you'd have, a stream or a waterfall running away. So water needs lateral resistance. It needs that container. So what we contend is that the world looks more like this. This is our world pond, right? This pink line is the Antarctic Treaty, 60 degrees south. And this container for our pond is the shoreline of Antarctica, right? So this causes a problem, though. The problem is if our equator is 24,900 miles around at the equator, well, Antarctica would have to be smaller. Now, they tell us Antarctica is about 10 to 13,000 miles around, depending on who you talk to. But nobody has gone around it successfully, other than Captain Cook for one. It took him 3.5 years, and he went like 60,000 miles.
Well, and there's that ship, the Antarctic, that went around just recently, but that one's questionable too because it took 100 days, and when you do the math on it, it comes out that they were doing 3 knots.
The continental landmass I'm talking about.
Now, is there waves down there? Because from every video I see, I always see no waves down there.
Well, so where we were in these channels.
Okay, gotcha. So there's no waves in those.
Yeah, sometimes this particular one is called the Lemire Strait. And the first time we tried it, we couldn't get through. But then we did get through on a clear day, and there were whales breaching out of the water. And, oh, boy, it was just so spectacularly beautiful.
How did the process go from the time you decided, I want to go down there? How many things did you have to get in order? Who did you have to contact? Who did you have to get the okay from? That kind of thing.
So here is a partial image of our crew. This is about half of us on the Lemire Channel. And there were 3 Americans and 11 Poles. And so once we got passage on the boat and worked out the payment, then the day we were going to leave, actually, the day before we were going to leave, we had to go to the military, the Argentinian military, basically to tell them who we were. They took photos of our passports, and the captain had to give a general itinerary of where we were going. And then we went to customs on the pier where the cruise ships leave from Ushuaia. Mm-hmm. And there we had to... we actually got stamped out. It's kind of a mystery because in the only time I've ever been traveling around the world, it's the only time I got stamped out to go nowhere that would stamp me in. So for 26 days, it was kind of like in no man's land. There's a little video. I think you're going to, well, I can't see it too well. Breaching whale. in the Lemire Channel. So I'm a geographer. I love maps, and the whole time I was looking over my captain's shoulder and looking at the nautical maps and all these channels and the elevation of mountains and the depths of the water, just fascinated with the geography. And I think that's one thing you guys aren't really recognizing, is that this continent has been very well mapped out, and it has been mapped out for a long time. And even by the Nazis were quite involved. And here's a map, which I have in my book, Beyond Esoteric, of the New Schwabenland claim.
Yeah.
And they also had underwater passageway maps that have surfaced in the last few years, showing that there are channels in Antarctica that go for hundreds of miles, not only under the ice, but under the continent as well.
Well, there's some people that believe that they go through to the other side, to be honest with you.
They do. Here's a map of Antarctica without the ice. And you can see western Antarctica, the Palmer Peninsula, where my finger is. That is a much newer landmass, as I was showing you with the continental, the rocky shoreline.
Do you believe that
that's about 900 million years old, where the old East Antarctica plate, where the 2 miles of the polar plateau exist, is over 3 billion years old. It had once been connected to the Pangaean greater landmass, and then through tectonic plate movement shifted down there and got frozen over. So, I mean, you guys have to acknowledge that there is landmass. I got to hear on my iPhone that this is a continent.
We never said there's no
it's
landmass.
not just a wall of ice, as I've heard it described by you guys.
Brad, that's not what any of us are saying. We say there's more land than you can even imagine. There's more land, probably maybe more than all of the continents that we know of combined, and the oceans also. I mean, if this is Antarctica, how far does it go? One of the problems that we have is there's no satellite photos, aerial photos of Antarctica other than the edges where the bases are, where the people are. We have people that were plumbers there, a plumber that was there for a year. We don't deny that Antarctica
Eric
exists.
Hecker, he's a friend of mine. Yeah,
is that was that his name?
Eric lived at the South Pole for a year.
Yeah. I forget his name. It's been a while, but we're not denying any of that. We're saying there is way more land. And, go ahead.
Yeah, there's land. It's beautiful.
Jeremy, what were you going to say?
I wanted to ask if you thought or you believe that there was any kind of alien contact with any Germans, around the time of World War II. Do you believe in that?
Yeah, I do, actually. It's part of what happened with the Battle of High Jump.
Right.
That there was a confrontation with very advanced technological craft, whether they were backward engineering from a malevolent ET race or it happened to be the reptilians themselves defending their area.
Right.
I mean, that's what I think is the real fascinating story about Antarctica.
So do we, but we think it a little different. The flat Earth belief is that there is land, more continents on the other side of Antarctica.
Yeah, but what does that even mean?
So because the show.
Go ahead, John.
Well, because you're seeing it. Yeah. So if
you're just making this up. I don't.
Well, we're not making it up.
There's no evidence that these other land masses exist, unless you want to talk about inner Earth, and then that's another discussion.
Yeah,
I don't understand what these maps are. I mean, anybody can doodle a shape. They're based on nothing.
Well, they're based off of, number one, there's stories in the 1900s, early 1900s, of people going through those channels and getting to the other side and being able to, run into civilizations. People think the Mayans went there. People think that the Lemurians went there. The Atlanteans went there. That they basically all left this area and we're stuck here being imprisoned by these guys at the top that obviously are sick of
another topic, but we're surely in Prison Planet. That's a subtitle
there you
of my
go.
book.
So let us get a couple points out here, Brad. I say the heliocentric system is a prison for our mind. They don't want us to know that there's possibly more land out there. And I believe in the extraterrestrials.
Can I say something real quick, Brad? Can I say real quick? When you present your stuff to somebody, if they're just completely closed-minded to it and just shut you down, I mean, that's not what you want from them, right? You just want them to have an open mind for 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Okay, that's all we're asking. Because I know...
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, so one of the things I like to point out is the idea of extraterrestrials coming from distant planets orbiting distant stars. That's where, if you believe in heliocentrism, that they're coming from. Do you know how close the closest, or how far the closest star is? It's okay if you don't know. These are just things to memorize. It's
Bernard star.
It's 4.5 light years away, which is about 25 trillion miles. Okay. Right. So 25 trillion miles. Do you know how long 1 trillion seconds is? Want to take a guess?
1 trillion seconds is.
Just take a guess.
4.6 light years.
Well, no, that it's not. I'm talking about the amount of time. The amount of time 1 trillion seconds is 1 trillion seconds is 31,000 years. The reason I'm saying that is just to show you how big a trillion is. So if you're traveling at a mile per second for 1 trillion seconds, you've traveled 31,000 years, and you're only 1/25th of the way to the closest star. Okay. In space, which is when you actually look at what space is, it's a scientific impossibility. When in reality, perhaps out here on the extra terra, extra land, if somebody lived out here and they came to visit us just a couple thousand miles across the Earth plane, that would be an extraterrestrial from the outer space right here on Earth. Now, that is a much more believable story where you can have, you can go back and forth in a day, right? Rather than traveling the closest star, 25 trillion miles away. The other stars are magnitudes farther through infinite space. Then they come here and crash in Roswell. That makes no sense. Right. If there's extraterrestrials, there could be many advanced civilizations out here, right? And they just come here. So the secret space program, the secret propulsion program, these are people that are, using advanced propulsion. Matter of fact, the MIT just came up with an airplane that doesn't use any moving parts, right? No moving parts, right? And it's using advanced, electrostatic forces to fly. So maybe that technology already exists. They're just slowly letting us know about it. And that would be, that story makes a lot more sense here within the Earth system. Go ahead, Jaron.
Well, I was going to ask about the 24-hour sun, because I do think that's a big thing. So when you were down there, obviously it never got dark.
It did, because I was already about 5 weeks past the solstice.
So the sun...
solstice, December 21st, that's the longest day of the year in the southern hemisphere.
Right.
And as we've traveled further south, and I made it to within 1 degree of the Antarctic Circle, just south of the Vernansky research base, which is run by the Ukrainians, of all people. And they inherited the base from the Brits. And we partied with them. They make their own vodka there. They're fun-loving people. We played pool with them. In the southernmost bar in the world, it's called the Faraday Bar in the Vernansky base. And they also let us use the sauna, and we did the polar plunge and went swimming down there. So I got within 1 degree of the Antarctic Circle, and even though we were a few weeks late, it was about 3 hours of pitch darkness, 2 hours of twilight on both ends, but pretty close to midnight, it was still light out. Mm-hmm. But we got pretty close, about 11 p.m. sun, close to the midnight sun. But had we been down there 6 weeks earlier, would have seen it.
And when you say sun, at 11 p.m., it was still light. The sky was light. Could you actually see the sun itself?
Yeah.
Okay.
At 11 p.m. And then it went into twilight till about 1 a.m. Then it went pitch black till 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and then 2 hours of twilight, and then it was sun out all day. That's why you can only go down there during these specific times a year.
Correct, during this summer. So you didn't have to get permission from the United States government to go?
Nope. They had no idea I was going.
Just the Argentinians? Was it?
None at all. It's a misnomer that you need these special permission forms. once we got there, we had full ability to jump in our Zodiac and go ashore and walk amongst penguin colonies or go out into the bay and see some whales. And it was up to us every day. We just discussed it with our captain, and they would say, okay, we'll take you guys out. If that's what you want to do.
How many miles? Go ahead. Sorry. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
Well, there's an interesting thing. You show the blue ice there on one of the photos. And the blue ice is very, very old. It is compressed down.
Yeah.
And so when we got to the Arktowski Polish base, they put the blue ice in our mixed drinks, and it pops like pop rocks. It was really cool. So then we would use the Zodiac. We liked that technique. And we'd go out to the glacier with pick ices and go chip, 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 chip. Kind of like the wall you see down there. Although that's one of the ice shelves.
Mm-hmm.
Where we went were glaciers that were pushing down between mountains right to the water. So there was ice walls right there upon us. But we could always see the land beyond it.
How many miles from the shore were you able to travel south?
To 1 degree north of the Antarctic Circle. So
which
just
is at
along
66.
the Palmer Peninsula.
So how many miles is that from the shoreline?
No, not many.
Well, like I said, there was a bunch of islands and channels all the way down, back and forth. Maybe about 500 miles from the time we dropped anchor at King George Island. Then we went around through the Bansford Strait into Deception Island, which is an amazing volcano cone, and there are other bases.
Can you show us on here?
There.
Can you kind of walk me through it? I'm just going to here. I'm going to show you.
If you can blow up on that peninsula.
Yeah, I'm going to Google Earth right now for you, and then you can show me. So we've got video thumbnail off. Oh shoot, that's Dave. I lost you, Dave. And we're going to.
I'm here.
Okay, good. So here we're going to pull this up. You can see this now, and we get up a little higher. Oh, come on. Let me pull this up so you can show us what we're talking about. Okay, so now a little higher. Come on. There. Now we can get it. Okay, so show me here. So you guys obviously left here, correct? Oh, people
far southern tip of South America. Yep, there you go.
Okay.
This is exactly where we were.
Now you came down and stopped here at these islands, or
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. The Pan-Antarctic Islands.
Right.
We did those chains on the way in and then the way back. So then after Deception Island, which is in that chain, we crossed over to the continent.
Here.
And then those big, wide valleys there, that's the Brantford Strait, and then a couple other channels. And then the water was very calm in there. Never got seasick again except for the crossing over. And then, there's the Antarctic Circle. So then Vernansky Base is just above it, and that's as far south as we got.
So just a little bit in from here.
No, on the coast. We were always on the boat on the coast, hugging the coast. Once we got there, we never lost sight of land the whole time because we were in those channels.
Did you ever get up on the land and do any walking out here?
Just some hikes on the coast,
right? Just
to go see penguin colonies and stuff. I mean, you need some pretty serious equipment to go overland,
right?
And be prepared for very cold weather trekking, but it can be done.
Yeah. When you guys were out here, were you using a compass?
Yeah, of course. There's compasses on our boat. Like I said, I was often looking over the shoulder of our captain, going over the maps, very, very interested in the geography of the place we were at.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't get further south than the Antarctic Circle.
Which is right where that yellow line is.
Correct. Yes. And you know what that demarks, right?
66.
The Arctic Circle and the Antarctic Circle, you know what that means?
Well, that's where
I guess
they get the 24-hour sun.
You need to be a Yeah, that's right. Everywhere below it is 24-hour sun on the solstice. And if you were at the South Pole, you would get 4 months of midnight sun. It does not get dark for 4 months. And I talked to Eric Hecker, who lived at South Pole Base for 1 year and 1 day. And he absolutely assured me he was witness to it, as well as, so then the sun goes basically in a corkscrew if you're at South Pole for 2 months up, 2 months down, 24 hours of daylight, 4 months straight. Then it goes into that twilight phase where the sun is kind of hovering right around the top. And by the way, it does the exact same phenomenon in the Arctic Circle. That's what that is in the northern part.
So we've seen
Once
that
again,
plenty. We've seen you can find video after video after video of the North. Okay, so we can find.
You can find it here too.
So
Eric says he knows some people that have.
Is Eric the
video of
plumber?
it.
Is Eric the plumber?
Yeah, Eric the plumber.
He does.
He lived on base though.
Yeah, but he told us he never saw the 24-hour sun. He said he saw 24 hours of light, but never saw the sun doing a circle around his head. That's what he said. But
well, it doesn't. It's not like it circles around. It just moves in the sky all the way around.
Yeah,
And
but he said he never saw the sun do that. He never saw the sun do that. I just want to point out, you went to Antarctica here, right? If you can see where I'm pointing, and on all of your trips, you went just a tiny bit out here, which is a big, huge distance, right? But we contend that Antarctica goes on and on and on and on. I mean, this could just be a small puddle in the Antarctic basin, right? So what I'm saying is your experience there, God bless you. It sounds great. Doesn't prove that the earth is flat or a globe. It doesn't prove either. It proves that you went to Antarctica and that you can describe everything you saw, but you just went to a small piece right over here. You didn't go south and pop up over here, which nobody's ever done. No plane has ever flown from Santiago and arrived back in Australia.
Actually, they have. Yeah, quite a bit. In fact, so Dave, this is the fallacy of your argument. When you say that there are lands beyond there, well, tell me.
We don't know. We don't know.
He didn't say that.
Let's go over some geography. I'm happy to review any real geography with you, like that Google Earth image you brought out, because I know exactly where I was.
So what?
And I can.
You were right here. Steps. You were right here.
So
you were.
I was to the Antarctic Circle, 1 degree.
Right here. Yeah. That's it.
So what planes? What planes do you think have gone across the North Pole and come out on the other side? I'm sorry, the South Pole.
Yeah, I actually have worked with a group. I've been to their office in Puentes Arenas, as well as the Nets in Chile. Went to their office there, and they also have an office in Salt Lake City. And here are some of the planes they fly and some of the trips they do. So, and they assured me that if you have the money,
they land. Okay,
they can get you anywhere you want on the continent.
Right,
and you can't just be saying, "I want to go to these lands beyond," because they have to.
Yeah, they have to follow
know
a map.
Exactly where we're going.
Right,
and you don't take millionaires on $100,000 trips to some mythical land beyond where I was.
Yeah, nobody's saying
it's
that
very chartable. It is very mappable. It is the 5th largest continent on the world.
So they use a grid.
So hold on a second, Brad.
They use
they
use a grid down there, not the regular longitude latitude that we use. They use a square grid for the entire continent, right?
Yeah. How else are we supposed to do it? This is the latitude and the longitude lines. This is how sailors have been charting the sea.
Yeah, I was talking about planes. Planes don't use that.
Age of discovery.
Yeah, I don't think planes use that.
Try to find you the planes they fly. But you can chart. Guys, I talked to him about this. I was approached by a producer who could arrange the money to go down there, and we were going to do some filming in various locations. And I was asking them, what does it take to get to where we want to go? Basically, the answer was a lot of money. And once you get that money, if we were to come up with a budget, that we could go to New Schwabenland, we could go where the pyramids are, maybe not to where I suspect the ships are. That might be some clearance. But here's your plane that flies over, guys. These are the big cargo planes.
But they fly.
You're showing us
they fly to
and
there.
have done it routinely.
No, they fly.
So for you to say nobody's ever
Hold
done
on,
it,
hold on.
that's not true.
Brad, let us respond to some of the things that you're saying,
ahead.
please.
You're not saying what we're saying. We said that nobody flies over it to the other side to get. You're saying they flew to Antarctica. Yes, they fly to Antarctica. They land there and they come back.
And they fly to Pole and they fly to other destinations. And there's bases all around on the coast.
Okay, but look at this map that Dave has over here. Do you understand that it would be feasible on that map? That's not impossible. What you're saying is not impossible.
Fly over here. You can fly over here.
Does, right? Yeah.
You can fly over here.
We're just saying. I mean, it's not. We're not saying that nobody. The thing that struck me is that there's no north, south, circumnavigation like you would expect. And the person,
Yes, there is.
okay, well,
Absolutely, there is.
You say there is, but
the person
we
that has
haven't-
the record, didn't even do it. If you look up ZQ Pilot, he tried to break the record for the quickest navigation north-south, and you can see his path here. I watched this live. He had it on Spider Tracks. He went from North Carolina down here to Brazil. Then he flew to the 90-degree marker and came back to Brazil. And they all said, "What are you doing?" The white line was supposed to be his put. He went this way, went through all these little islands, landed here in New Zealand, went up to Alaska, North Pole, came back home, and he got the record. They gave him the record when he didn't even circumnavigate.
He got the record for north-south circumnavigation, okay? And he never crossed the South Pole.
And if you
He said he went to 90 degrees south, though. That is the South Pole.
Yeah, but see that. So what he did is, he went all the way around here. He went to the South Pole, and then he turned around. We're not saying you can't get to what they're calling 90 degrees south. They can tell us anything. GPS can steer us wherever we want. So this is what he did on the flat Earth map, and he got the record, the world's record for southern circumnavigation. No one's ever done southern circumnavigation, and this guy got the world record for just taking this course. Something's going on here.
Admiral Byrd was also a very accomplished pilot, and he flew over the poles.
He went
in different directions.
Well, he came in from all different sides. Yeah.
Well, but here's the thing. This might be why he had to retrace his steps, is because one thing I did find when I was down there is there's definitely no fly zone near the pole.
Absolutely.
Brian S. was one of Linda Moulton Howe's whistleblowers, and he flew sorties to the pole, and then he had to go to Davis Base towards in a different direction. He was told not to go over the no-fly zone, and at that point, they saw the giant hole near South Pole. And there have been other witnesses to that, including Admiral Byrd. So if you want to talk about lands beyond the ice, maybe we are talking about the same thing if you consider that Antarctica is the most volcanic continent in the world, and it would have the propensity to open up giant domes underneath the ice. So, in fact, there is such a thing as an inner Earth in Antarctica. Question is, what is it?
Have you ever seen it yourself?
Well, we saw some ice caves for sure.
Well, there's ice caves everywhere. So let me just point out a couple things here. So on the flat Earth map, the South Pole would be not on this map, right? So you can fly. You're here. You can fly out this way, and then there's a no-fly zone. You got to turn around. Let's say this red ring is the no-fly zone, right? But if you look at what that really is, if you take that map and you wrap it around a globe, this is why there's a no-fly zone, because the no-fly zone is the edge right here, which would be the red line, and then this is the South Pole. So you go here and you got to turn around, right? And
I don't think so.
Yeah, well, you don't think so, but I just pointed out one thing that when we're talking about extraterrestrials, the distance to stars, it makes no sense. Also, the idea of seeing stars at that distance makes absolutely no sense. They're scientifically impossible to see at a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the distance they tell us. You know what the inverse square law of light? Do you know what that is? It's okay. I didn't know when I was first asked. It's as light expands, it spreads out. So if I had a balloon and the rubber on the balloon is the light, and I blew that balloon up to a foot wide, now that rubber is now much thinner, right? So that light is dimmer if that's the surface of the light, the distance the light has traveled. Now, if I blew that balloon up to 10 feet wide, how much thinner does that rubber get? If I blew it up to 5 miles wide, would there be any rubber left, right? So light gets every time you double the distance to a light, it's 1/4 of the brightness. They're telling us, right? You can see Polaris from where you are. You're in the north. Polaris is 433 light years away. If Polaris was a light hour away, it's scientifically provable that you couldn't see it. Or maybe I think a light week away, whatever it is.
I have a little
but
graphic.
We can see these things at the distances, at these ridiculous distances. Let me just do the whole thing. If this is our sun, right? Our Earth is a tiny, small BB next to it, right?
Sure.
If the sun was a mile over our heads, it would fill the entire sky. Then we move it 93 million miles away, and it gets to the size of a coin held at arm's length. Okay, that's 8 light minutes away. It reduced from the entire sky to the size of a coin. If I doubled the distance, how much smaller would it get? If I made it 24 times farther, how much smaller would it get? And if you do the math, which nobody ever does, its angular size would be magnitudes too small for the human eye to see. Well, 24 times the distance is 3 light hours. I think it's, no, 2 light hours, 3 light hours. Okay. Well, Polaris is 48 times bigger. So at 6 light days away, Polaris is scientifically provably impossible to see. At 6 light days away, it's 433 light years. This is provable nonsense that everybody just believes because they weren't taught how to deal with big numbers, right? So I'm just proving that what they're telling us about the stars are completely insignificant. I'm proving that, hey, just because you went to Antarctica doesn't prove either thing. You're talking about caves, the inner Earth that you haven't seen. You saw some caves. Interesting theory. I like it. We can talk about it. But there, I'm jumping all over the place. But there's so much science that proves that we live on a level horizontal plane. Right? Water at rest doesn't bend. It doesn't curve. And on a ball, just jumping forward, if we're on a ball, look at the example, Brad. If my fingernail is a boat and I sail away, it goes behind a curve. And if I zoom in on it, you still can't see me because there's a physical curve. That is our horizon on a sphere. Unfortunately, we can calculate how far things should be before they disappear. We can zoom in with today's consumer optics and we can see things much farther than we should be able to see. So that proves that the horizon is optical, right?
Let's go back to stars.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
So you brought up Polaris. You do mean the North Star, right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Which is visible in the northern hemisphere.
Yes.
The reason why it has been used by mariners for centuries is because it's fixed right over the North Pole.
Correct.
Well,
Correct.
guys, I've been to about a dozen countries in the southern hemisphere. Have you heard
can't
of
see
this? I saw the sky there. Have you heard of the Southern Cross?
Yeah.
There's all different constellations in the southern hemisphere,
Right.
totally different from the northern hemisphere, and
So
you
think
cannot
about-
see Polaris.
So think about a Home Depot. If you're in a Home Depot and I'm at one side of it, I would have different lights above my head than somebody would have on the other side of Home Depot. And if you had a Home Depot that was long enough, it would eventually set, and I wouldn't be able to see any lights that are on the side of the Home Depot that you're on, right? So think of a Home
Yeah,
Depot.
but I've been to Japan. I lived in Japan. I've been to many countries in Asia and Europe in the northern hemisphere, and guess what? I always see the Big Dipper in all those
Absolutely.
countries. So that's a flawed theory there.
No, hold
No,
on.
no,
Hold on. Listen to what
you're
we're
not
saying.
understanding it. Let us explain, and
So-
then maybe you'll understand. Go ahead, Bjorn.
Yeah, so if you picture a Home Depot, and let's say we're in the center of Home Depot, and right above us is what we call the North Star. Great. Well, we can walk out a certain distance away from that center of that store and still see that light above our. Above
Now
the head.
expand that Home Depot to 20 miles wide.
Right now, it's just you.
Okay. And then if you walked a mile away, well, you're not going to be able to see those. That center light is going to merge with the floor. You're not going to be able to see it. There's hotels in Vegas where you look at the far end of the hallway, the light is touching the rug, right? Until you zoom in and open it up again. So that's why people in the outer south can't see the inner northern stars that are spinning around over Polaris, right? Here's the problem. We're corkscrewing through, according to heliocentric model. Do you know how fast the Earth is spinning at the equator? It's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. Do you know how fast it's orbiting the sun? 66,600 miles an hour. Do you know how fast it's chasing the sun? Right? Over 500,000 miles per hour. Right? And those are just 3 of the motions. There's more motions than that. Right? So we're corkscrewing through space. All of the planets are just keeping in perfect alignment with us. We could predict where they go through this gravitational model, which is ridiculous. And I think we're traveling in one of the directions 4.5 billion miles a year, never to return to where we were before. But somehow Polaris still stays in the same place. Are you familiar with the Georgia Guidestones?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So there's a little hole right here in the Georgia Guidestones that if you look through it, Polaris is there. do a time lapse, and there's Polaris.
Okay.
Georgia Guidestones has been up for over 40 years. We're traveling trillions and trillions and trillions of miles, but somehow, Georgia Guidestones, somehow Polaris still lines up in that hole.
Or what do you think
Do you
about
have an
the
explanation?
What do you think about the
Yeah, there's a
pyramids?
great explanation for that.
My
Polaris
explanation. My
Polaris is
explanation
right
is
over
the
the North
stars. The stars are fixed above us and they're spinning. Polaris is almost at the exact center. It makes a tiny little circle. But when you look through here, you see Polaris. The Earth is moving billions and trillions of miles, and somehow Polaris doesn't move, which is also, they're all supposed to be moving. Now,
Yeah, it's supposed to be 70,
I'll tell you
70
the
years
global
before-
argument for this is Polaris is so far away that there is no parallax, even after decades and decades and centuries, right? But they also say, 4,000 years ago, there was a different North Star, and in 4,000 years, it's going to be a new North Star. Well, if that's the case, in the 40 years this has been up, Polaris should have moved over half a degree or a degree, which would put it way out of alignment, and it's still there. It hasn't moved.
Of course not, because it's right over the North Pole. The North Pole spins around. Dave, I've been to Cambodia, Hawaii,
I think you're missing what
all
he's
across North America, all across Europe, and you can see it from the Northern Hemisphere.
saying. Yeah, we know that.
And
but
then I've been to a dozen countries in the Southern Hemisphere, and you cannot see it.
we know that.
Because it's wrapped around. It's below it.
That's. I mean,
And
that's
there is no
that's
southern
what
equivalent.
Brad,
And
hey,
this
Brad.
is what affects the early explorers. Because
Brad,
they didn't have the Guidestone like they did with Polaris.
Brad,
Yeah.
you're not understanding what we're saying. So we're going to try to, Jaron, why don't you
Well,
try?
don't go into the whole Home Depot, because that really doesn't make any sense to how you can see a whole set of constellations in the southern hemisphere below the equator.
Dave, can you bring
and
up your
a whole
phone?
different set above the equator.
Can you bring
Yeah.
up the app so you can show them that?
Yeah.
And about, the pyramids too. I think is weird that the shafts of the pyramids are pointed directly at Polaris today, but they.
Yeah. It's a very important star, and it was very
Well, but it
much
wasn't when they built
revered.
them. When they built them, it was pointed at a different star. So between the last 4,000 years, it wasn't pointed at anything, and we just happened to live in the perfect timing when it's pointed back at Polaris. That's pretty.
They
impressive.
said when the pyramids were built that we had a different North Star, but somehow it's pointing at our North Star now, and so we're living in the perfect time where it lines up with a new North Star. Our North Star doesn't move,
but Brad
because
already
it's fixed.
Brad already knows that history's wrong.
Yeah,
Of
So,
course.
you know,
But this is news to me that it was built at a different time. I think it was built with
So-
Polaris in mind, because how else could it be pointed right at it
that's
now?
the problem.
I know, because it doesn't move, because the entire model that you're basing your worldview on, which has been programmed into all of us since before we could even talk, is what you're building everything upon. When you separate from the heliocentric system and understand what the flat Earth system is, everything is answered.
Yeah, I think-
Heliocentrism is scientifically impossible. Go ahead, Jaron.
I just think I think you would reach all new levels of understanding if you looked into this possibility, because really the ball keeps you locked into basically like a maze where you're just wandering around. You're never really going to figure out anything, because I don't think it's correct. But when you look at the planets and the distance to the sun and all those things, we really just accept what we're told, right? I mean, you couldn't figure out the distance to the sun, right? If I told you, Brad, I need you to figure out the distance to the sun, you wouldn't have a.
Yeah, there are ways to do it.
Okay, how?
Well, you can find out how far away the moon is, for one.
How?
Well, based on its rotation, based on
No. See, these are
the
stories that they.
eclipses,
these are
which is
stories that they
something
tell
else
us.
you guys don't really explain very well. How is it that when we have a full lunar eclipse, when the Earth blocks out the sun and you see the round moon, how about all the planets? You look out in the sky, you look in a telescope, everything's round. So
Great questions.
Yeah.
So Brad, you're mixing a heliocentric model with the flat Earth model, and it's laughable. Okay, I agree.
so?
Because you're saying, well, we're a flat planet with round planets. No flat earther thinks that. Only globe believers that don't understand what flat Earth is think that's true. So let's stick on one topic at a time. We said, how would you figure out the distance of the sun? You said, well, I figured out the distance of the moon.
Look,
I said, well, how would you figure out?
Astronomer
I
to know the exact calculation it takes, but I know it's been done, and the ancient Greeks were measuring the curvature of the Earth.
No, that's what these are
This
stories.
is,
These are
this
stories, Brad, that they're telling you.
2,400 years ago, they were looking at the shadow.
So 2,400 years ago,
an obelisk in Upper Egypt and another one in
it's a story, Brad. Brad, it's
Lower
a story.
Egypt. No, it's not a story.
It
It's
is a story.
provable.
Well, hang on.
Cast differently, so they knew they could project the curvature of the Earth.
Time out. Huron the Elder. Huron was a librarian of Alexandria who was after Eratosthenes. Same location, same studies. Never mentioned Eratosthenes.
So you know it. Okay.
But he never mentioned Eratosthenes. But let me show you this. So if you had 2 bottles of water, Brad, if you had 2 bottles of water sitting here on my flat desk, and we had a small light above one of them, the one that it's above has what shadow? None, right? But this one over here, it's going to have a shadow. Does that prove that my desk is a sphere?
Well, how about let's take it a step further. Instead of a bottle, let's use a well.
Okay.
And in a well, then you can get the projection straight down and at different angles as they're further apart.
Let me check it. I got the graphic up. So, Eratosthenes was told that he believed that the sun was infinitely far, and there was parallel rays, although no one's ever seen parallel rays. But here's Eratosthenes' experiment. He's here, and he sees the sun on the bottom of the well, so he puts a stick up, and there's no shadow. So you have to look at the diagram. And then he sends his buddy who counted the paces 500 miles away, and somehow he communicated with him at the exact same time. And his buddy put a stick straight up and down, and it had a shadow, and he measured the length of the shadow, did some math, and figured out the sphericity of the planet. Perfect. On a flat Earth with a small local sun, here's Eratosthenes right here. Can you see? And here's his buddy. And the stick in the shadow causes the same amount of shadow length. You can do some math, the same math equation, and figure out the sphericity of this flat plane. What did Eratosthenes do wrong? He assumed a distant sun. Okay, the stick in the shadow and the well, and whether you have 2 wells or 3 wells or 3 sticks, it doesn't prove either because it works in both models.
I mean, this is the problem: is that they have people like Carl Sagan, and he'll have a piece of cardboard like this, and he'll show these 2 sticks, and then he'll say, "Well, look, the only way it works is if we curve this paper. Now we can get it to work." But they never talk about, well, what if the sun is close? What if the sun is small? So they make these. There you go. There's So what he's forgetting to mention is that if the sun is small and close, that's exactly what you would expect. Think about anything. I mean, my desk here.
Shouldn't the shadows cast exactly the same?
No. So think about if I have 2 bottles of water on my desk right now.
Well,
here it is right here.
Hold on a second.
Here it is right here, Brad. We have a light over this bottle. I got a beer bottle here. I got a light over it, and there's no shadow, right? But there's the shadow over here. According to your
bottle, Dave, that's only a partial picture.
No, so if I put another bottle over here, it would also have a shadow. This would be the only one that doesn't have a shadow. And then you could do math and figure out the sphericity of this floor.
This is an important part. Hold on. This is an important point because, Brad, I want you to see that this is how they've confused us. And this is what it took me waking up because, my wife asked me, could the Earth be flat? I'm like, no, that's fucking stupid. I don't know why you're even bringing that up. I've gone around it. You've gone around it. And then it wasn't until I saw the map that I realized, like, oh my God, my whole life, I just kind of picture you can't fly around the Earth. It has to be a sphere. But in this case, you're here saying that the Eratosthenes proved, without a doubt, it's provable that the Earth's a sphere because he did exactly this measurement. Picture that's 500 miles apart. That we're looking down at a flat Earth. 500 miles apart. One has no shadow. One has a shadow. If you measure the angle there, you would then be able to say that floor that we're on is a sphere. So it's not proof of anything. It's actually an old wives' tale. It's not even... there's not even his books are gone. There's not one book from Eratosthenes. So we were told all these things about him. And go ahead.
Brad, do you think that the rulers would educate us with information that could challenge their narrative?
Certainly there's a lot of editing and there's a lot of falsehoods in history. Voltaire called history the Mississippi lies. So I'm totally with you on this, guys. But in a way, if you're just making stuff up, like saying you can't fly over, hold on. Now I let you guys talk quite a bit. Let me have the floor here.
Absolutely.
When you make stuff up by showing extra continents outside there, or you can't fly over, that's not true. And here's the other thing. I live right here by the coast. I like to go jogging on the beach in Santa Cruz. And on very clear days, you can always see the Monterey Peninsula if it's clear out.
Right.
But if the clouds aren't obscuring it. But on really clear days, you can see it with crystal clarity.
And do you know what
but
the
it
curvature is?
appears like a floating island. Why is that? Because there's enough curvature of the Earth over the Monterey Bay that you cannot see the Salinas Valley and what goes beyond. It always arcs away. Everywhere you go, everywhere I've been on planet Earth, there is a curvature. And it's very observable. It's the way that boats sail away, and the last thing you see is the top of their sails.
Well, I mean, it's like they leave these little cookie crumbs for you, and you're just picking them up, and you're just you're going to run with them.
That's not cookie crumbs, guys.
This
is
because
observable science. It's been used by mariners for
so we've done a
centuries.
test. We did a test where we were in Monterey from Pacific Grove, looking towards
Santa Cruz, where I'm at.
No, what's the name of the city? Moss Landing. So because we needed to aim at the smoke stacks.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
there's another one where it appears like it's just floating on water.
Okay, so we had somebody with a mirror, shining a mirror to the person at Pacific Grove when the sun was setting behind him, and they were able to pick up the mirror flash with their camera from 4 feet above the water. You're talking, it was like, what was it, 23 miles.
Moss Landing's halfway between the Monterey
So maybe
Bay.
it's 18 miles, whatever it was. But there's supposed to be some 60 or something feet or 100 feet of curvature. 100 feet of drop.
Well, how come when I look out in the Pacific, I don't see the lights of Tokyo?
Well, that's okay. Come on,
directly.
Hold on. Let's think about what you're saying.
Yeah, one thing at a time. We'll answer that.
That's a good question, but I mean, think about what you're saying. So you could never see something. Imagine if a car driving away from you. How long until you don't see that car? Because it gets smaller. Things get smaller in the distance. So anything across
blocked out, or if it's totally a flat surface, it will eventually, like a boat going over the horizon. The last thing you see is the top of the mast of the sail.
Let me answer that, because this is the thing that I fought the hardest, and this is the thing that made me jump heliocentric ship. So that all of these light posts, these lights, are at the same height, but they appear to be going down. But our brain tells us, no, that's just perspective. Well, this is the same way we see the sun. When you're looking across the thickest part of the atmosphere, which is at ground level, it gets thicker and thicker, and it becomes opaque, and everything gets mashed into the horizon. So on a ball, as I said earlier, we can see the horizon is optical. So you got the sky and you got the land, and as you go into the distance, they go until they become together. Right. So if I can see 10 miles or 100 miles, whatever it is, in one direction, I can see the same distance in all directions all the way around me if the weather's the same. Right? That draws a big circle around me, like I had my head inside of a hula hoop at eye level. Right? I see a curve. My programming tells me it's a sphere, but it's really just the limit of my vision. So let's take a quick look at what happens. So out here, we don't see anything because the horizon meets the sky. But as I zoom in, I kind of increase that space. And as I increase that space, we can see there's a boat there. Okay. Now that boat was invisible before. Now I'm going to zoom out, which is the same thing as the boat going away. And you're going to watch this boat disappear from the bottom up. Look, the sides are missing. It gets up to the window. It comes higher. And then the angular size of the boat becomes too small for our eye to resolve. But today's consumer optics were able to zoom it back in. Now I can't prove right now how far that boat is because it's a moving object, but there's many, many, things that we have seen that we
Brad, do me one favor though.
That we know the distance to.
Go since you're in Santa Cruz, I used to live in Salinas, Monterey. I was a store manager at the Longs there. Go to the beach with a camera and watch a boat go out and disappear from your eyes. Okay, so you watch it. It's going. You're going to see the mast. It's going to disappear. Pull out your camera and zoom in on it. And when that boat comes back, you need to ask yourself why you've been told that boats are going over the curve when they're not. That's a weird thing. How about this? Have you heard that the water goes down in the southern hemisphere the opposite direction than the north?
Yeah.
It's a lie.
Corey, no, it's not. I saw it.
No,
I have sinks in my house that go in opposite directions.
It's a lie. I can look it up
the
right
toilets.
now.
It has to do with the way the water goes into the basin. That is all.
But these are all lies that they told us. Why would you tell people lies to get the truth across? I mean, I've never had to do that. I've never lied to people to get the truth across. It doesn't make any sense to me. But if you look at, does water go down? Now it's at least admitted, and the people that are at the equator are just playing tricks on people, taking people's money, going to one side of the equator, pouring the water in the one basin and then the other side. But it's little things like this that there's so many of those things that kept coming up. One of the things, if you look at your map, can you bring up? Oh, you can talk about that. Talk about that real quick.
Yeah, just real quick. So this is the camera at 1 foot off the water. These are known distances because these, things don't move. And at 9.4 miles, according to Globe Map, there should be 59 feet of curvature. Not only can we see the thing here, but if you watch the video, we can see the water for dozens of miles beyond it, where there should be hundreds of feet of curvature. So none of this, so I don't know exactly how far, but here there should be 59 feet of curvature, and there's none. We can see the surface of the water the whole way, Brad. And the way it works is
Japan.
What's that?
Why can't you see Japan?
Oh, okay. The great question, and the answer is if you're in a swimming pool that it has perfectly clear water and it's 100 yards long, you can't see the other side of the pool. I could draw a big smiley face on the other side of the pool and you can't see it. It's because things become opaque and the air is like water, but it's just, farther. You can't see farther because first thing is, what's big enough to see at that distance? Nothing, right? You can't see Mount Everest across the United States because it gets too small, but that's not the reason you can't see it. The reason you can't see it is because of the density of the atmosphere. So you have to watch this as I explain. This is a viewing spot from Aluja, France, and out here is Mount Canigou, which is 175 miles away. The very top of Mount Canigou from this viewing spot should be well over a half a mile below the horizon. So now if you're a globe believer, you believe this is a physical horizon, but it's not. The light that's bouncing off of me, you are seeing. If I turned all the lights off in my room, you wouldn't see me. The light that's bouncing off of Mount Canigou is not strong enough to push through the atmosphere to your face. But the sun migrates in between the tropics every 6 months, and at twice a year, it's in line with the viewing spot and Mount Canigou. And the sun is bright enough to push through that 175 miles. And when it does, when it passes Mount Canigou, all of a sudden you can see the entire mountain. Okay. The top of this mountain should be a half a mile below the curve, but it's right here. Right? But without the sun being lined up with it, you can't see it. And that's not even nearly as far as Japan. Okay. So here's Mount Canigou. The globe explanation is, Mount Canigou is way below the curve. The sun set 10 minutes ago. It's refracting up and magically stopping at eye level. This right here is absolute rock solid proof that one of two things, not that the earth is flat, that the earth is either flat or 1,000 times bigger than they're telling us. That's another problem. 1,000 times bigger, it's probably more land somewhere. Hidden land.
All right, bring it on. Show me some pictures.
Well, I'm showing you a video right now showing you that this mountain is visible when it should not be. This right here is proof of either one of two things. The earth is 1,000 times bigger than they're telling us, or it's a horizontal level plane. If you look at the, water lays flat. There is no curvature. We go to the Bolivian salt flats. We go to frozen lakes. We do laser tests. We do mirror flashes. We can see way too far. The problem is your eyes can only see, I think it's called the Rayleigh criteria. You can only see something that's 0.2 degrees or wider or bigger, right? But things disappear really quick. They get smaller and smaller. You have atmospheric distortion. You have humidity. You have water. You have all sorts of stuff.
And here's the thing, too.
Jaron, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I wanted to just say that by no means do we think that you're going to become a flat earther today. It's not the way it works. We think that it takes time. It takes, when you hear this stuff, we want to get this stuff into your head, because I bet you when you're out there doing research, when you're thinking about your books, some of this stuff is going to hit home. Some of this stuff is going to be like, oh, shit, that doesn't make sense. Oh, that is weird. Because there's too many things. I mean, you think we're spinning on this planet. Okay, I used to think that too. Flying through space, we just don't feel anything, right? The oceans stay relatively still. The lakes do. You can stack rocks up, super high, and they just stay like that. So my question would be, when it comes to that, how do you think it works that the atmosphere carries with it everything with it, right? So if we take a balloon up and we start to go up with a balloon, at what point does the Earth spin away from the balloon?
And you can see the curvature of the Earth up on a balloon, or I've seen it in planes too. When I'm flying long distance, they go up to a higher altitude.
Okay, so we have Neil deGrasse Tyson.
120,000 feet. no curvature.
Neil deGrasse Tyson says at 120,000 feet, you would never see curvature of the Earth. So that's the thing, is that when you believe you live on a ball and you get in a plane, you're going to see what you want to see. You're going to think you see curvature, but it's been proven mathematically that you wouldn't be able to see it anyway.
But again, we got to understand perspective, because perspective up high is different than perspective on the ground.
Sure, of course.
So what you're showing the picture of the sailboat, Dave, and the mountain over the water. So on a clear day, you can see for miles and miles and miles, right? When it's clear and you can pick out, and that quite looks like what I see over at the Monterey Bay Peninsula. But there's water all the way around the Monterey Peninsula from my perspective. You see, that's just on the ground. So that saying is true, that you can see for miles and miles and miles, and I can make out the valleys and.
But it makes sense that we would never see Hawaii, right, from Santa Cruz.
Well, no, because you can't, because Earth is a sphere.
Okay, but think real quick.
Hold on, let me just go through this with you guys.
Let him finish. Let him finish, Sharon. Let him finish.
I got an earful from you. Now you got to hear this out.
Okay.
So
sure thing.
For a 6-foot person, which we're all about that height, the horizon is little more than 3 miles or 5 kilometers away.
Correct.
Very good.
Geometry tells us that the distance of the horizon, that is the farthest point the eye can see before the Earth curves out from beneath our view, depends simply on the height of the observer. Mm-hmm. So it's different at the coast, and it's different, for example, if you stood atop Mount Everest, which is 29,000 feet up, and the horizon can be seen for 230 miles. That's much different than looking across the Monterey Bay. Now, add the effect of refraction, which bends rays of light as they pass through the atmosphere. And some things we're right on the same page together, guys. But the horizon is much farther with the effect of refraction. Cold weather increases the amount of atmospheric refraction. So in a particular frosty location, such as Antarctica, people have been able to see for hundreds of miles. There's no pollution down there either, very little.
But they're seeing farther than
it was, and I do recall this being very, very clear just about every day if it wasn't super cloudy out. We could see for quite a long distance. It seemed farther than other places.
Yeah, Wilkes said he saw 300 miles.
Since the clouds hover above ground level, they can be seen farther distance than features on the Earth's surface. But just as the weather sometimes aids our view, it can also hinder it. So some days we were on the boat and fog, scattered light rain, limited visibility to below what we would expect based on height, mountains in the distance. And of course, topography plays a role. Even the best viewing conditions aren't much good if there's a mountain in your way. So that picture you showed, Dave, Japan is beyond it, but way, way, way beyond it. So that mountain is obscuring the view all the way across. If you guys are saying,
but what I was showing you,
miles, and
what I was showing you is you can't see Mount Kanagu, for let alone Japan, because the light can't penetrate the atmosphere. Right, the light can't go; it's not bright enough. But the sun is bright enough to backlight it. And guess what? The sun's light doesn't travel for billions of years like they tell us. I mean, it only goes a certain distance. It's like sound; it only goes a certain distance. Let me just show you a video I did here. This is my drone. I have it up below freezing. Can only do this on a super clear day. It has to be below freezing, no humidity, not over water. So I'm on the East Coast looking west. And the sun was up here, and in 5 minutes it went down, 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 because if we were spinning, it would just keep on going. But it didn't do that, Brad. It went down, 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 and then it stopped. And it sat here for 10 minutes. This is sped up. Watch carefully. My friends at the beach, who are now at nighttime, said the sun set from the bottom up 10 minutes earlier. Did you see what just happened?
Yeah, that's light refraction, fog in the sky. I've seen that effect too.
This is the clearest, crystal clear day. Okay, and the sun takes its light with it, and it goes away. Right, the sun is circling around the Earth, and due to perspective and atmospheric density, what I call the atmospheric deck of opacity, it just goes beyond it. And it looks like it's going behind the horizon, but it's not.
You have that kitchen video? That kitchen video is great.
Yeah. Let me show you that, and this really might help you. So I have this is called my Flat Earth Kitchen. Now watch. I need you to.
Yeah. And by the way, I was just looking at this
1 minute. Yep.
Water going down the opposite
What's
direction.
that, Jaron?
I was just saying, I was just looking at, and it's, there's answers for both. Some things say no, some things say yes, some things say no. It wouldn't. You never see it in the water. But anyway, just I was looking at it. Go ahead,
Brad. Is this line level? It is. It looks level. You can see it's level. And this is my kitchen counter, which is right here. I've got some stuff stacked on the counter here, and I'm going to move this light along it. And we're watching it from a terrestrial point of view, a celestial point of view. So we're at the same height. We're watching me move it. Now, this could be a city skyline, mountains, or just atmospheric deck of opacity, clouds. Never goes below it. Now, I got a camera on the counter where I started looking this way up at it. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. Now, when we look at this, if I showed you this first, I'd say, is this line level? And you'd say, no, it's sloping down. And I'd say, is this, which is at eye level, does this light go below it? And you're like, well, yeah, it certainly does, but not. Now I'm going to zoom in and watch it again, right? Look at this line. It looks like it's almost going straight down. And this is the sun just going away, and it looks like it's going down. Now, this is at eye level. Now, let's compare this to a real sunset over the water. Here's a real sunset. This is going away. This is going away. Now, what's this going behind here? This is the atmospheric deck of opacity, or it just could be mountains that I can't see. Either way, it's going beyond it. And it looks like it's setting. If I zoomed out with my camera, these two horizons would merge together. You wouldn't even see this. And you would see the sun going behind it. And it's all perspective. It's how we're never taught this in school. And when we see the sun going down, I'm like, oh, it's because the earth is spinning, because they taught me that when I was in kindergarten. Right. And that's what we built our world belief around. This wasn't an easy transition for any of us. I went in kicking and screaming, Brad. I didn't like any of this. And I went in to disprove it. I went into, I'm just going to get rid of all these dummies. And I went in with a bad attitude. I'm going to prove the globe and disprove the flat earth and be done with this. And here I am, quit my job. This is all I do now, because this, Brad, let me just back out just a second here.
I was going to say, don't quit your day job, Dave, but you already did that.
I did. And it's okay, because Brad, you and I, we're on the same page. This world has been hijacked by a bunch of evil people. And I use the word people generously. And the way they get away with all of the nonsense going on in the world is they have us all spinning out of control, lost in an infinite space vacuum. They have us believing that aliens are going to come here and take over us. They have us believing that we're running out of water, we're running out of fuel, we're running out of food, we're running out of space. Every person in America could have a half an acre in Texas. If you gave every family a half an acre, half of Texas would be empty. Okay. And the rest of the country would be empty. You could take the population of the world and it would give them a half acre in Australia, and half of Australia would be empty. It's ridiculous. Everything they tell us is an absolute lie. And the heliocentric matrix, right? Neo is plugged into the matrix. We're all plugged into this heliocentric prison. Right? They don't want us to know that we're at the center of creation, that we have the ability to manifest. They tell us in school we only use 10% of our brain. Okay. That's because that's the goal of school, to disconnect us from our connection to nature, our connection to our spirit, our connection to all of this esoteric stuff. They don't want us to know. They teach us calculus and geometry, but not sacred geometry, not vortex mathematics. They don't teach us the stuff that could challenge their authority. The Rockefellers are feeding us stuff to make us good slaves. Use 10% of your brain, watch Netflix, drink, watch sports so you can feel like you had a victory, and then go back to work and then get old and die. Okay. And that's what's going on. And this is the lie, how they keep us in power, how they keep their power.
And Brad, they're lying about
everything.
Sorry
for the rant.
Yeah. Well, and they're lying about everything. And so why would we then assume that the place that is really an open slate for them to lie as much as they want, which is space, why would we ever assume that that's true? If they lie about the things that we can touch and feel and go check right here, you can go check all the things you've discovered and unveiled. If they lie about those things, why would we then say, oh, but they're telling me the truth about Mars and Jupiter and Saturn and how many moons it has and what it's doing?
No, they're not. But we have to be able to create a way to measure things and look at things and use science in a way that we can advance as a human species. Well, let me ask you guys this. Do you think the Germans backward engineered craft and these
Yes,
other crafts
I
flew
do.
over the Capitol in '52, and
Yeah,
do you think
absolutely.
humans have been to outer space? Let's put it like that.
No, I don't think you can get.
No.
Very, I don't think you can get very far. No.
They've
No
been
human has
to
ever-
the outer space. We don't believe outer space exists. We don't believe that planets, as described by Disney and NASA, are rocks in space, right? I can scientifically prove that planets aren't what they tell you. So think about this, Brad. Use your actual ability to think here, because I didn't before I was forced to. You look up and you see Jupiter in the sky and Mars in the sky and Venus, and they're brighter than most stars, some brighter than all the stars sometimes, right? But you have to believe that a dusty, dirty ball 25 million miles away is reflecting sunlight, ignoring the fact that it's not reflective. That light is traveling 25 million miles back to Earth, ignoring the inverse square law, which says it gets dimmer and dimmer, but we can see it brighter than a star. That makes absolutely no sense. When we zoom in on these stars with today's consumer optics, these are pulsing orbs of energy. We can prove that they're not the size and distance that they tell us. They don't reflect light brighter than we can see. The moon, if you use the scientific inverse square law of light, let's say it's 1 lumen on a full moon night where you can read by it. It casts a shadow on the ground. Well, you go halfway to the moon, it's 4 lumens. You go halfway again, it's 16 lumens. Halfway again, it's 64. When you're 100 miles from the moon is 64 times brighter than we see the sun, right? Well, that doesn't make sense. Is the moon really that bright? Is it 238,000 miles away? And just jumping back, and I'd like you to go back. We asked you earlier, how you can prove the distance to the sun. You said, well, the distance to the moon, the orbit. Well, the sun and the moon are the same size. So how do you know which one's farther? How do you know which one is doing what? Right. And we've all what's it called when you defer to other authority? Well, someone figured it out.
Yeah, they teach you that.
The appeal to authority fallacy.
We stand on the shoulders of giants. But
yeah.
Brad, have you ever looked into Edwin Hubble? You know, the guy who described the expanding universe.
Yeah.
And
what about him?
Well, have you looked at his quote about observationally, he said we're the center of the universe, but that he refused to go in that direction. The absolute horror of a unique position. That it's intolerable. I'll show you the quote exactly. But what they basically did was they couldn't disprove that we were the center of the universe. So they came up with the idea of expanding space. They said, well, what if we're on a balloon, a bunch of dots on a balloon? If you blow that up, they all get further away from each other, right? And then they just went with that one. They never went the other direction. Why? Because they base their entire science on a worldview. I don't know what your belief is in a creator, if you think this is all accidental and some big bang happened billions of years ago. I'm not really sure your position there, but we can crash a plane a trillion times. It's never going to make anything. It's never going to create something. But somehow explosions in the sky created planets, created gas planets, created people, created oceans. I think there's more intelligence behind this than that. But they really want to sell us on the idea that there's not. They really want to sell us on the idea that that this is all accidental. That and that these guys are so smart nowadays. We live in the 50-year period of time that these guys can calculate the age of the Earth. They can calculate how long ago the Big Bang was. And we're really worshiping men if we believe in that. You don't have any evidence of that. You're just being told by Neil deGrasse Tyson that, hey, we can rewind the sky clock.
That guy. No, they edit things out, of course. And he obviously has his benefactors who
of course
give him a script to read. So we don't really have to quote him at all for ill or bad. But this is what I want to find out from you guys. Okay. Remember in 1961, Ham the Chimp was the first in outer space. And Yuri Gagarin from Soviet Union. And then we had our Mercury missions and then the Apollo mission. Mm-hmm. And now we have the space station and videos from up there. What do you guys think that all is then? Was that all just make-believe or what?
So you believe we went to the moon?
I'm not saying one way or another. I'm just saying there has been a long history from Ham the Chimp and people going into low Earth orbit. That's all you need to do. We don't even have to talk about the moon. Low Earth orbit, and you'd be able to see the curvature. And there are videos, guys. There are a lot of videos from outer space showing a rotating spherical Earth.
Would love to see one when you have one.
Yeah,
And
We'd-
it's a
we'd love to see one.
round Earth that covers.
So-
What do you
the
mean that
sun.
you wouldn't be able to see from the ISS? You wouldn't be able to see around Earth. What do you mean?
Yeah, you would. You
No,
see it all the
that-
time.
they
All
say
the
that you
UFO
can't.
Videos they're picking up.
Oh, you're talking
Right.
about
They're going around
So-
the Earth.
Okay, that's with a curved lens. That's with a GoPro lens. You're talking about. You mean like on a balloon
Right.
when they get up there and they see the
Brad, let me ask you a
Like
question.
fisheye lens. Sure, you can
If we
manipulate
caught
it, but then-
if we catch NASA faking zero gravity or faking things on the space station once, is that enough to start questioning if what they're doing up there, if they're even
Well,
up there?
But you guys still
Right.
haven't answered my question.
Good.
Has any human being been up there to witness it? Just
No,
out of the atmosphere where they're weightless.
I don't believe that exists.
Well,
You don't believe that exists.
you would believe that
Yeah.
weightlessness exists if somebody was falling, right? If somebody's falling towards Earth, would you believe that they're weightless?
Well,
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
like
that's
yeah.
the way to do it.
Yeah.
They simulate in a
Zero
Zero G
when it
plane.
starts dropping. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what about the weightlessness outside of the gravity of Earth? So,
like who has been there?
Yeah. Where are you talking about?
do you believe there has ever been a single astronaut or even Ham the chimp that experienced weightlessness in outer space?
No.
Yes
Maybe,
or no?
no. Maybe a
No.
zero G plane.
No. Okay.
Zero
So
G plane, maybe.
We're
So
going on
can I-
many decades of humans going into space of several different
many
countries.
decades
Of doing
of
what?
every one of
leaders
those is
lying
fake.
to us.
So what has the
Well,
ISS done?
so-
What has the ISS accomplished? 21 years in orbit. What? 150 billion dollars. What has it done
Well,
for
who cares
this?
about that? I'm just saying,
Well, it's
if
a
you guys
scam.
can't even say that a human has
Darren,
been in
hold on.
outer
Yeah.
space or even Ham the chimp, then
Well,
I
we're-
can't get
we're
through
lo-
to you guys either.
So hang on. We're looking for evidence of this, and the best evidence we can find is on the International Space Station. Let me just show you a couple of clips here. So here's Don Pettit, who's showing us how he made a bag, made a coffee bag. But watch carefully. This is done on a zero G plane, and something went wrong with the CGI. Watch the color in the bag. It offset. It offset from that. So that, what does that show us? That shows us that they're lying about something. So then we have another scene. We have Chris Hatfield, who loves playing his guitar, and this guy, there one guy's upside down, and they're in different rooms and different green screens, and he mistakes where Chris is, and he sticks the microphone right into his neck. It's inside of his neck, and this is obvious green screen usage. Here's another one.
Stanley Kubrick shot scenes of the moon that they used
Right.
and they shouldn't have. But
Right, but
look,
this
there
is
fakery out
this.
there. I agree
wait,
with you guys.
Hang on.
That's
I'm
good
going to
agree
show
with
you a
that.
bunch of fakery, and then we haven't
We
been able to
both
find
agree.
anything.
Yeah, there's fakery.
Yeah. All right, so watch this. So this is that's not the one I wanted, but this guy's head is transparent when he comes around. It's showing that they're using layering because there's no right hand turn on a zero G plane, right?
Green screen fakery. What's your point?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
doubt that NASA and other space agencies want to make themselves look good, want to justify their big budgets, and they put out crap like this. And that's wrong. That's deception.
So you're just saying that they're justifying their budget.
Is one way of doing it. Yeah, one reason
Right.
why. Can't make
Well-
sense of the story, follow the money. That's the old journalist adage.
So they're fake. Why wouldn't they just, if they're on the space station, why wouldn't they just send us some video? Watch under his arm. He moves a little too fast and reveals the green screen.
Yeah, there
Okay.
you go.
So let me
There-
ask you
so-
about this one.
so-
I'm not doubting you guys that this is probably all fakery. Why do they have to do it? I don't know.
okay, so
To
this is
justify their budget, to show that they're. Why did they release some of Kubrick's clearly fake moon stuff?
Great question.
And now NASA has destroyed all the footage. Yeah, of course they bullshit, but they didn't want to look bad. Look, this is a space race in the Cold War, and they had to say, "Hey, look, we did it. We pulled this off. We're better than the Soviets."
Okay, but
Darren,
hold on.
oh,
So think
we're-
about
go
this
ahead.
real quick. When you talk about that, you do realize that the Soviets tell a totally different story. The Soviets don't teach their students, "Oh, the United States beat us, and we're just scumbags who didn't win." They teach their students that they were first in space, first woman in space, first animal in space, first orbit in space. So each country got to tell their own version of the story. It was agreed upon ahead of time. That was all a fabrication. real quick, I just want to show you this thing here. This is the Chinese space station that they just filmed the other day. And you can see here, if you watch this film, that it's completely fake because, watch this. What's happening here, Brad? So the thing is, for this Earth to do this, it means that they're using some sort of either a panorama camera or a fisheye lens. But you'll notice that the space station itself doesn't change. It doesn't morph. It doesn't lose its solidity. So that means that they're on two different camera feeds, which doesn't make any sense. What do you mean? So there's a camera pointed at the Earth that's a fisheye lens, and then they're superimposing that behind a craft. They're faking it, and this cannot possibly be in space. So, I mean, if you're okay with just believing in lies, I mean, for me, I can't stand it. I can't stand.
That's all I try to do, guys, is expose the lies.
So expose this one.
People...
You said people fly across the South Pole. Okay, they don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so So here's the thing. We tried to book a flight from Buenos Aires across the South Pole to Perth, and the pilot that's on YouTube is what's his name again? I forgot his name. Kelsey, the pilot. He made a video like, the Earth isn't flat, guys. You can get me. I'll be your pilot. We'll fly a plane and I'll show you. We contacted him. We said, yes, we want to do the plane. He backed out. Why? Because he can't fly across the South Pole. So look into that.
There's a no-fly zone there. That's why.
Well, let me ask you a question. Are you allowed to fly in the southern hemisphere, just not over Antarctica, right? You agree? You can fly in the southern hemisphere. Here's the Earth. Yeah. We got the northern hemisphere. Here's the equator. Okay. If you were taking a flight from any northern location to any other northern location, would you ever need to cross the equator? From any two northern? What's that?
Several times, Dave.
No.
Across the equator.
No, I'm not saying can you fly. I'm saying if you're flying from a northern location to another northern location, would the plane cross the equator? The answer is no, and none of them do.
No.
Okay, very good. If you're flying
across the Arctic region, though, and I've done that before.
That's fine too. No problem. Works on a flat Earth. Okay. Now, if you're flying in the southern hemisphere to another southern location, would you ever have to cross above the equator?
No.
And the answer is no, because it would be the same as the north. However, there's many, many flights that will cross. They make these crazy. They say, "Oh, this is the Great Circle route." But if you look at it on a flat Earth, it's a straight line. Okay. And when you start looking, there's also many times emergency landings happen. All right. And the emergency landing, something really weird happens. So this flight right here, they landed in Seattle, right? Something happened, emergency, someone's having a baby, and they went, hundreds of miles out of the way to land in Seattle. But you look at it on a flat Earth map, Seattle is right on the same flight route. Here's another one. They landed in Moscow, 1,000 miles out of the way. Well, if you look at all the data on this, how did they travel that 1,000 miles in the amount of time since the emergency happened? Why did they go all the way to Moscow? Well, look at Moscow. It's right on the same track, right? Again, another one would be this one. They landed in Calgary, right? Way the hell out of the way. But look at Calgary on a flat Earth map, right? All of these things, there's 16 documented videos. And now I'm just showing you a bunch of memes, and I don't expect you to believe it. You can look up this PDF online, you can buy the book, 16 emergency landings. It documents all of them, and they all land on the line from the origin to the destination on a flat Earth map. Makes no sense on a globe, makes perfect sense on a flat Earth.
So, Brad, we also tried to disprove this, right? Like, I don't want to be a flat earther. I mean, come on. But if you look at Dave, can you bring up the map just so I can show him in the south?
I
just want to show him the difference.
Gleason's map.
So I flew one time, guys. This makes sense with heliocentric spherical Earths. I flew from Zurich to Chicago, and I flew over Greenland.
Right.
You do that on a curvature of the Earth. It's actually a shorter distance. You don't do the straight across.
Right. So this map is the same as the globe, right?
Sense.
But this map is the same as the globe.
Jen, can you put it up like on the big part so we can see these here or no?
Yeah, I can do it. Yeah, 1 second. So, go ahead, Dave.
Point out Zurich and point out Chicago.
So Chicago's here.
You'll have to blow it way up so we can get a sense.
I actually can't, but Zurich's over here somewhere. Just draw a straight line between the two. That's how you went. And then you look at it on a globe, it's a crazy loop. And now, by the way, northern flights, northern to northern, are very similar on a flat Earth and a globe Earth. It's only when you go to the south that things get really distorted. It should be the same.
So
it should be the same.
So the south on a flat Earth map is much larger, right, than a globe. A globe comes back down together. Flat Earth map is really wide.
It's all, once again, it's all projection, guys. So it's called the Mercator projection. I'm sure you've heard of it. Yeah. The way that maps are laid out, where Greenland gets really big on the Mercator projection. When I was down in Australia, I thought it was pretty hilarious. They had maps down there called up, over, down, under, and they just flipped it around. Technically, it's correct. Mm-hmm. It's the same Mercator projection, but now Australia is the top of the planet and all the northern hemisphere continents are down below. So how come you guys don't do your projection that way then? Why don't you show Antarctica like you do the Arctic?
What do you mean?
Because you can flip it around and do it the same way.
No, if the Earth's a globe, you
from
can.
the southern hemisphere.
If the Earth is a globe,
we actually think the Earth looks like that.
So on the Earth, on Santiago is here, Australia's over here, right? Just fly like that. That would be the shortest route. But instead, they go all the way up, all the way across, and all the way back down, which makes no sense. But if you look at it on a flat Earth, right? Santiago, cross over to the United States, go over to China, go over to Australia. It's a long straight line. And the path they take.
Let's see Europe. Let's see Zurich, Switzerland to Chicago.
But we're saying that everything in the
north is the same. Why did I fly over Greenland? We're talking about the same thing, you guys.
Same thing.
Right here. So where's Zurich? Over here?
Yeah, it's in the middle of Europe.
Okay. All right. So Zurich to Chicago, right over Greenland.
Yeah.
Right over Greenland.
I saw it out the window. I saw Greenland.
It's right over Greenland. You're flying right over Greenland. Look, it's right here.
Yes,
on a flat Earth map.
But doesn't prove
on the flat Earth map. You're arguing our point.
No, Dave.
This is the route
you're arguing my point.
Right, it's the same.
You do fly over the curvature over the Arctic areas, just like you can fly over the Antarctic areas.
Go ahead, Jaron.
Well, it's just, you're saying things like you can fly over the curvature, but you're just saying that because you think we're on the globe.
Because I saw it, because I experienced it.
So you saw the globe?
Greenland?
So actual scientists that do the calculations that tell you that you're wrong, you know better than them. They're telling you from 120,000 feet you can't see curve, and you're saying you saw it at 40,000 feet. You don't think that's a weird thing?
I'm talking about my flight from Zurich to Chicago, and we flew over Greenland.
Okay, you said you flew over curvature, but that word's in your head. It could be on this map as well, right? It's the same thing, is what we're saying. The difference comes in the south.
We're probably talking about the same thing.
Okay, so in the south, there's a difference.
And a plane going 550 miles an hour has to drop a mile every 2 minutes just to maintain the same altitude. It has to drop a mile, okay? The gyroscope, which tells the pilot that he's level, holds rigidity in space, right? The gyroscope has to be wrapping around the Earth. Gyroscopes are independent of gravity. Right? If the pilot dives down, the gyroscope's going to tell him he's diving down. If he turns, it's going to show him that he's turned, that he's not level. Right? But flying for an hour, you're going to be 30 miles higher. 30 miles higher if you don't nose down. But no one noses down. Airplanes fly straight level over the Earth plane, Brad. Okay. The Earth isn't spinning underneath it. If you were on a runway in northern Alaska, that runway is moving, makes a circle every 24 hours. Maybe you're going 300-400 miles an hour. If you're on the equator in Ecuador, you're moving 1,000 miles an hour because it's 24,000 miles around. How does an airplane take off in Alaska and then land on a north-south runway in Ecuador that's moving sideways at 1,000 miles an hour when it never had that initial speed? Okay, this is where brains short circuit and they go gravity.
What about
it doesn't matter
west? When I fly to Southeast Asia,
Dave, listen. Let him say this.
We lose a day.
Yeah, because you cross the timeline.
And when you fly back, you land at the same time you left.
Right, because you cross the timeline.
Yeah, perfect.
Hold on a second. How about when you fly from New York to San Francisco or San Francisco to New York? Which one should be faster? Remember, the Earth's spinning to the east.
Well, land mile wise, they're the same.
Yes, distance wise, they're the same. So which one would be faster?
So you're saying because the Earth is spinning,
right? So
would the flight take longer? Sometimes it does, but I usually attribute that to weather.
Yeah, so it actually works the opposite way. The flight from New York to California is longer than California to New York. which, I mean, again, the Earth is spinning.
Even though California is running towards New York
at
on the globe.
at basically about 700 miles per hour. So
that's a good observation there, because when you fly with the sun setting in the west, you can arrive at your destination from New York to San Francisco just a little bit later than when you left. So you'd lose 3 hours in the time zone. If it was a 5-hour flight, you would just land 2 hours after you left. But if you went the other way, and let's extend the distance even further. So when I fly to Southeast Asia, that's about 1/3 of the way around the world if you're doing a direct flight. And you will cross the international date line. You see, this is another thing you guys haven't adequately explained, is longitude and latitude, southern hemisphere, northern hemisphere, and flying on these long trans-Pacific flights.
I went to the Philippines, one shot, 16-hour flight.
And also
when you cross the date line.
When we came back, we got
do you ever
back
wonder
earlier than we left, actually.
Why the coordinate system for a 3-dimensional 3D globe only has a 2-dimensional coordinate system, right? It's to give you coordinates on a flat plane. Now we know there's elevations and ups and downs, mountains and valleys, but they're using a 2-dimensional longitude and latitude coordinate system. The coordinate system they're using is a flat Earth coordinate system. Okay, so just look right here. Let me just show you. I'm going to turn on the time zones, right? And the time zones spin with the sun. Wherever the sun is, it's noon, right? Wherever the sun is, it's noon. So here are the time zones moving. So if I'm in an airplane and I'm flying this way,
or what's the date? Oh yeah, April 22nd.
This is today's date. Today's date. Okay, is today the 22nd?
Yeah. Well, we'll be in a few hours.
Oh, and that's because I have the time zone because I had it spinning. That's why
in
it's
the UK
22nd.
it is already the 22nd.
But what I'm showing you is wherever the time zone is. So if I'm flying this way, I'm flying and I'm changing time zones faster than I am if I go this way, right? So that works perfectly on a flat Earth. You just don't understand how time zones work, right?
Oh, I sure do.
Okay.
Well,
I've been all 24 of them.
You don't understand that it works perfectly on a flat Earth. On a flat Earth with a rotating sun. It's noon in Sydney, Australia right now, and it's midnight over here.
Hey,
okay,
Brad, isn't it weird?
And as the sun comes around, it brings its light with it. And when it's over here, it's 6 a.m. Right? It's still dark here in America. I'm here on the East Coast. And when the sun's over here, the sun will start rising for me, but Jaron and you will still be in the dark for 3 hours. Okay. And then as the sun comes closer, it brings its light with it and it changes the time.
And that's all that the clock does is it's 24 hours in a circle. And imagine they confused us all by just giving us two 12-hour clocks where the hand goes around twice. So nobody was ever smart enough to realize, the sun makes a 24-hour circle. Why wouldn't we just have a 24-hour clock? Why not have a 24-hour circle like that so that you could always see where the sun is? Because that actually shows you where the sun is. No matter what time you look at that clock, it'll tell you exactly where the sun is, where the sun is above which country. I
do not disagree with that at all.
Okay.
Because when the sun is shining on planet Earth, it's putting light on the northern and southern hemisphere. Now you actually have a good little proof there for around Earth, Dave, because why do you see slightly more nighttime? Because
I'll explain that too.
So if it was the equinox 1 month ago on March 21st, it would be a straight across line. Now, if you go forward to the solstice, it'll be a shorter day. There was a great, maybe you guys remember that in the Smarter Image store, and it showed the light, very similar to yours. On equinox, it is equal 12-hour days northern and southern hemisphere, but it changes, of course, during the solstice.
Now let us tell you how it works on a flat Earth.
Hold on, you mean everywhere is the same? Everywhere's 12 hours?
On equinox, except below the Arctic and Antarctic circle. It changes because you're so far low that you're only getting
see, that's weird.
Let me look into that. It may be exactly the same in the Arctic.
The other thing that's weird about the globe seasons is that the sun, when it's closer to us during our winter by 3 million miles, they say, which is pretty crazy. Well, I mean, the sun is right above me in the summer.
Let me run you through an experiment, and I'm going to ask you a few questions. So if I'm if I'm here, if the sun is directly above me and casting no shadow, so I got the sun directly above me and I have no shadow in any direction, I could assume that it's 90 degrees above me, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a fact. I just want to make sure you understand. So
You're
just
saying
try to follow me.
12 noon
If
or
the sun
something
is
at the middle point of the day.
Middle point of the day, the sun is directly above me. This can only happen in between the tropics. Happens in Hawaii. It happens in Mexico. But so the sun is directly above me. It's 90 degrees above me because there's no shadow. This is I just want to make sure you understand. It's not a theory or anything. Okay. If the sun is 90 degrees above me, what if I took the sun and I moved it halfway between 90 degrees and the ground? How many degrees is that? 45 degrees.
Mm.
It's 45 degrees off my horizontal plane.
Okay.
Right? You with me, Jan? Are you with me?
Yep.
I just need to, if you're not with me, I want
along with you. Sure. Okay.
Okay.
So we're talking about
if,
the exact middle point between sunrise and sunset, the middle part of the day.
On the day on the day where it's 90 degrees above me. So 3 hours later or whatever, it's 45 degrees. And when it's on the horizon, just before it sets, how many degrees is that?
10.
That would be, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees, whatever, or, an 85 to 90 degree tilt.
Okay.
You with me?
Okay.
I know you're with me. I just want Brad to follow because this is a globe killer.
Right now, guys,
Okay.
we got sunset at 7:48 and sunrise at 6:52. Okay, because the Earth is tilting, we are now going into the summer in the northern hemisphere.
Brad, I'm going to explain seasons if you allow me. If you allow me to show you and you actually follow, you'll see that your explanation for seasons makes zero sense.
Well,
you're saying this time is wrong?
No, we're saying that's right,
No,
but it doesn't mean that
it's absolutely right.
Out my window that it's right on.
But it doesn't mean you're drawing the conclusion that the Earth is tilted. You don't have any evidence of that other than they've told you that. Do you understand?
I'm going
to
Brad.
Because on the equinox, it was noon. It was exactly 12 hours.
But you're making it sound like there's no other possibility for that to happen except for if the Earth's a sphere. When we're showing you how it can happen, I'm
showing you how it can happen. I'm showing you how it cannot happen on a sphere. I'm teaching you something new. If you stop researching and listen, are you willing to listen?
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so we have the sun. And they tell us that the sun, when we're tilted towards the sun, the northern hemisphere gets more direct rays, and that's why we have our summer. And when we're tilted away, those rays are spread out over, that 23.4 degree tilt. They're spread out, and the sun is less intense. That's why, even though it's 3.5 million miles closer to us in our winter, the rays are spread out, and that's why we have our winter. Is that your understanding of seasons?
Yeah. That the days get shorter, and you guys know that. You don't need me to
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the explanation for winter is that we're tilted away and the rays are spread out across us.
Okay.
All right. So sun 90 degrees above me, sun 45 degrees, sun on the horizon. That is the most tilted it could possibly be. All right. Are you looking up something else, Brad?
I'm listening to you, Dave. But go ahead.
I just need your attention for
agreeing on this. So
okay.
What is your point?
So here's the thing. Here in Connecticut, where it's freezing in the winter, things freeze, and in the summer it gets really hot. On June 21st, on the solstice, when the sun is on the horizon over the water, I can take off my shirt and get a tan. I can feel the heat on my face. I can feel the heat on my body. I can get vitamin D. And the sun is at the most severe tilt possible. It's 1 degree off the horizon. And it's 3.5 million miles farther away. I can feel that heat. Then in December, on the winter solstice, when the sun at solar noon, when it's 50 degrees or higher in the sky, a much more direct angle and 3.5 million miles closer to me, I can't even feel the heat on my face. I could stare at the sun. I don't get a tan. I don't feel the heat. It's 3.5 million miles closer. It's at a much more direct angle, much more direct. And I can't feel the heat. Okay. In the heliocentric model, that makes zero sense. Now, In the flat Earth model,
the days are a lot longer on the winter.
And I'll explain why the days are longer. So just follow me out here. If you and I were sitting outside in a snowy field, 20 feet apart, and Jaron came over with a heat lamp and held it 15 feet over your head, a big giant heat lamp, and it's directly above you, 90 degrees above you, you'd be like, and the snow around you would melt. And I would look at that heat lamp, and it's lower in the sky. It's farther away. It's like 40 degrees, 45 degrees, let's say. And I would be like, I don't feel the heat. I'm freezing. The snow is freezing. Now, Jaron's going to walk over to me, and he's not going to lower that lamp. I'm going to watch that lamp get higher and higher and higher, and you're going to watch it get lower and lower and lower. I'm going to get warm. You're going to get cold. That's how seasons work. Okay?
And real quick,
on the map here,
yep.
Here's it. We're in our summer. The sun is close to the north. Everyone in the north is having their summer. 6 months later, the sun moves out to Capricorn, and the south has their season. Australia has their summer. Miami is super hot in June because the sun goes directly over the Miami or southern Florida. Okay, it's hot because the sun is right there. It's close, right? I'm sorry. By the way, no. I'm sorry. This is the summer, but when I go back to June, it goes right over Miami because it's over the Tropic of Cancer. And everything between the tropics is the tropics. This is where all the warm places are because the sun crosses over there twice a year versus us. We only get it once a year. It comes towards us and it goes away.
That's where all the deserts are.
The sun, anything inside the Tropic of Cancer is the Arctic area. You like that. And the sun is arcing around you. Anything outside the Tropic of Cancer is the Antarctic region. If I'm standing out here, the sun isn't arcing around me. It's coming toward me, and then it's arcing away. It's Antarcing. The Antarctic has an Antarctic sun, and the Arctic has an Arctic sun. Arctic means the north, and Antarctic means
what about the
not the north.
Capricorn in the south?
It's out here.
There's a
yeah, it's that one up there.
The Tropic of Capricorn.
You get the midnight sun on that diagram in June when you're just showing around the solstice. It was 24 hours of daylight in the Arctic that is represented there
in June. It shows the 24 hours there of the light. Oh, okay.
And now you're on winter solstice.
Great.
You can see.
And there's no video of the 24-hour sun on the winter solstice. There's none. You may think there is, but there's none. I said yes, there is, and I fought this too. And it's been 6 years. I haven't found one yet. Okay, there's 3 that are obviously clearly fake to the untrained eye. Okay, clearly
and they all
fake.
Came after 2015 when we started pointing this stuff out.
Sharon, can you pull up the time lapse from the Antarctic station?
Yeah, but mention to him the difference between the North and the South, because again, on a globe they should be identical, and on a flat Earth they wouldn't be, and they're not. So it's evidence of obviously not
right at equal degrees north and equal degrees south, 6 months apart. You should have the same amount of life, the same amount of temperature and everything, but it's not nearly the same. And at 60 degrees north, there's mammals and trees and plants and everything. At 60 degrees south, I believe there's nothing except some penguins. Jaron, no. So Jaron's pulling up.
Was there any plants, Brad, down in Antarctica? Nothing, right? No.
Well, there's lichens and mosses.
Okay.
But there are no trees or bushes or anything.
So if you went to the same spot in the north, you would find plethora of stuff. You'd find squirrels and deer and all kinds of things.
Yeah. Which makes perfect sense on a flat Earth, but it makes no sense on a globe Earth. Now, Jaron's going to pull up we're looking for proof of the 24-hour sun, and we're like, you know what? They've got these webcams there showing these snowy fields, and there's obstacles and buildings and flagpoles. We're like, hey, we'll just watch the shadow, right? You got that handy? Can you put it on the big screen?
Yep, coming up right here. Browser solo. Okay, there you go.
Swap me out.
Okay.
So watch this carefully. So tell them what's going on.
Yeah, so I started watching this just to see, because they have these webcams, and they basically have every single day. So it lists the day, and you can click on any day, and you can watch the webcam. But it's kind of hard to see. Let me maximize. Oops, I can't do that. Sorry. Let me get it back. That's not going to work. So if you watch these flags as they go around, you'll start to notice that they cut every day. Let me show you. Okay, so we're trying to watch the shadow just to get a 24-hour circle. Watch these shadows. They keep resetting. Here it comes, and then you'll see it reset.
They cut out 10 hours.
Here comes reset. Here comes reset. Now, I called them and asked them, why don't you have one full day rather than have the entire summer season with not one full day? I said, I would rather see one full day than 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 half days. And they said, oh, we don't have the bandwidth. We can't, we only can upload a certain amount a day. But watch these flags. You can see the shadows. They come around and then they cut. Come around and then they cut every single time. Now the sun looks like it's coming like this to me. See how it goes this way? So
yeah, corkscrews around.
It's Antarctic.
Well, I think it's Antarctic like this way. Not you're thinking it goes behind our head, but if it goes behind our head, why don't we see the shadows come around there?
Why don't we see it pitch dark either?
Because
Well, that's a whole other thing. The optics of the sky, and if you believe that there's a dome, it makes perfect sense. And we can do experiments and show you how when the source that we call the sun gets near the outer edge, the light actually wraps around, right? And when you look in, excuse me,
and then
when
there's
you look into that.
There's the
Right.
other one that we watched recently that showed the clouds repeat. Remember the old man comes down and said, "Oh, it's 12 o'clock midnight here."
Oh yeah, that's the 24 hours sun video, and we don't.
That one's
I
been
don't think
debunked. Then
we
there's
need
the
to
other
jump
one.
into that.
Then there's the other one that's been debunked. Is the one that has the location times or the directions north, south, east, west.
But
Totally
Brad, using the former logic that we used and that you're using today is they're justifying their budget by not showing us something. It makes no sense that they can't show us the 24-hour sun going around.
No, it doesn't.
And the videos that came out of there that we see are so fake. There's one where there's a construction site and they're showing the crane going, but you slow it down, you see it's edit. There's more edits than NASA has on a rocket launch.
Well, Eric Hecker lived there for a year, and he will swear
said he
on
didn't
the
see the
Bible
sun.
or be summoned in a court of law and say that he lived through 4 months of total daylight.
Daylight and sunlight are two different things.
Yeah.
Daylight and sunlight are two different things. Daylight, when the sun rises on the east side of your house, you can go in your back side of your house and read the newspaper where the sun is being blocked. Okay, and you can't see the sun because it's being blocked by something, right? But there's daylight because the sun is lighting up the dome, lighting up the sky. Yeah. Here's the bottom line, and listen, we've gone over time. I can keep on going, but I don't want to tire you out, and I don't want to piss you off, and I like you a lot, right? But
not pissed off at all.
All right, I'm just saying.
I think we're about 50% on things we totally agreed on, but the whole idea of lands beyond Antarctica or you can't fly over, that's just not true.
Well, so here's the thing. You're claiming.
So if we let you,
photograph the curvature of the Earth.
So wait, you're
where have you seen the photograph of the curvature of the Earth?
Yeah, you look at space station footage. You look at pictures when they went out to the moon. You can see a round Earth from the moon. You can see
that's a
satellite images.
Yeah, that's a rough one. I mean,
yeah. So
right, I mean, make our final arguments here because we're going on 2 hours, guys.
Yeah, the final. This is made in Photoshop. The guy that made it admitted he made it in Photoshop, and you can even look, and he photoshopped the clouds. He was lazy in Photoshop. He stepped and repeated them, but he admits he made it in Photoshop. Right? When we look at photos of the Earth, you have to take your pick. Which one do you like? I'm a blue marble guy. This is my favorite. Which one do you like? Because these are all paintings. Okay, these are all paintings of Earth, and you think those are hard to paint? Check this out. This is a painting. Look at the reflections. Okay, somebody painted this. You don't think that somebody could paint this? Right? Absolutely. These are all just photoshopped, painted, hand painted. They're just nonsense. Right. And then just one thing from the moon, and the whole moon thing is insane. These are all the landing places that we had on the moon, and these are all of them. Well, this is a full moon. Okay, this is why we see the moon from Earth. So the Earth is here. It's over here. It's not over there. It's not over there. But if we look at the pictures, we see the moon off the horizon. Well, the moon would be directly above them.
Earth,
You wouldn't
Earth.
see the moon.
Earth.
Right?
Earth.
I mean, the Earth. You wouldn't see the Earth because it wouldn't be on the horizon. It would be at their zenith. It would be close to 90 degrees above them. Right?
Yep.
And this is what they're showing. This is fake. And also we have it where we took this photo from them off of their website. We took it, put it in Photoshop, cranked up the levels, and there's a box around the Earth.
And then they took it off their site.
Yeah, and they took it off their site. But we have video of it.
And
Another Kubrick fakery.
And I'm just showing here.
Look at it.
So I'm showing here. This is the place I got all these South Pole webcams, and I did put the link in my Telegram if anybody wants to get it. But this shows you all these different time spans, and it's hilarious to me that they haven't changed them or updated them since I first found these. They're garbage. Not one of them shows a 24-hour day. Not one of them show. You have cameras that can operate at the South Pole to do webcam footage, and you can't show me one day of the sun going around. That's a problem for me. Go ahead, Dave.
So here's my request for you, and again, we don't want you to believe anything we say. We want you to see with new eyes and start checking this stuff out yourself. It doesn't come immediately. There's a lot of great videos out there. There's lots of short ones. There's a bunch of documentaries. One of them is called The Stranger's Guide to Flat Earth 21 Questions. I would love you to watch that one day when you're eating dinner or whatever you're doing, kicking back. Watch a couple of these videos, and they're gonna spark some questions in your mind, and it might help you break the programming you had. We all had the same programming, we all had the same excuses, but none of them prove the globe. So if I asked you right now before we end, what's your number one proof of the globe? I don't know what it would. What would your answer be? Just one. Just like what's your favorite? Yeah.
Oh well, because I have witnessed solar eclipses and lunar eclipses, and it did not show as a disk.
We're not a disk. We're not a disk in space. The
roundness of the planet, and you look out at all the other planets and the stars and the moon, and they're all round, guys. How come Earth all of a sudden?
A star is not round.
Flatness.
There's no star that's round. That's a complete total fallacy.
Okay, spherical.
No, there's no star that's spherical.
No.
What about our sun? Doesn't it?
Sure.
I'm looking out right now.
Sure, I would say the sun.
It was round as hell.
Sure, but no star has ever been seen by any human as anything other than a point of light in a telescope. So you can't say that it's a sphere.
And there's the Seleninian eclipses where we can see the lunar eclipse start while the sun and the moon are still both above the horizon to the viewer. Well, that doesn't make sense because the Earth isn't in alignment with them if they're both above the horizon. And the eclipse comes in from the top sometimes. Sometimes it comes from the side. Sometimes it comes in from the bottom, right? These prove that it's not the Earth that is causing the shadow on the moon, right? And you can't cast a shadow 238,000 miles where it makes a sharp edge, right? The whole eclipse thing, we have tons of videos on eclipses to show you what they're not. Right? The moon I'll admit it, is a huge mystery. But the way it works is you got the Tropic of Cancer, the Tropic of Capricorn, you got the equator. This isn't the scale or speed, but the sun and the moon do the same thing. But the moon travels between the tropics every 2 weeks. The sun does it every 6 months. And only when they cross at a nodal point do we have a solar eclipse, right? So the moon goes in and out every 2 weeks. Right? You know, there's a 24-hour moon in the north, but not a 24-hour moon in the south. Every month, there's a 24-hour moon for a week. And then this is when we have our solar eclipse, right? So the whole brainwashing that eclipses prove the globe is a lie. Think about this. Government out here to help us, I think we're on agreement that they're really not. What's one thing they do when there's a solar eclipse? They make sure everybody has free glasses that will blind them from staring at the eclipse because they'll go blind if they look at the eclipse. Well, let me tell you something. The last 2 eclipses, I stared at the eclipses with not even sunglasses on the entire time, and my eyesight got better. And I got lots of information. And what I saw isn't what they're telling us. They don't want you to look, okay, at what's really going on. The whole eclipse thing is nonsense. When the moon eclipses the sun completely, no one's ever seen the moon, right? It's blocking the sunlight. The earth shine should be lighting up the moon like the moonshine lights up the earth. Even with infrared from the International Fake Station, No one has ever seen the moon eclipse the sun. So what is doing it? That's a whole longer discussion. But again, there's tons and tons of information that Google's hiding from you. You won't find it easily.
I want to show Brad one thing and then we'll be done. But Brad, so this is the South Pole camera I just brought up. This is April 20th. And I want to show you, and tell me if we can call this fake together. So this is April 20th. Now watch the sun come around from right to left. See the sun? Okay, so it's...
Oh, there's some Aurora Borealis there, too.
Yeah, it's very nice. Okay, so here it comes. It's going right to left, and it's going right about the horizon. It's the 4:20. Now watch the next day. 4:21, here comes the sun. You tell me if we can call bullshit on that. Can you call bullshit on that? Can you call bullshit that the sun just moved 5 degrees, 10 degrees in the sky in one day? They're faking this whole freaking shit. It's all fake. Because, again, now it's up here. It was just here. Here it says 4:21. And why don't they show the camera all day? Here it goes. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 1, 2, 3, 4. They cut out 12 hours of it. Look how high it is now. What the hell? Oh, my God. Okay, this is bullshit. I can't even deal with this anymore. That's in 4 days. The sun just went from the horizon to fucking 30 degrees in the sky. Wow. That's, I mean, to me, I just get so pissed at why, do you know how easy it would be to have a fucking camera 24 hours a day at the South Pole that we could show children why the Earth's a sphere? Do you know how easy it would be for them to put a camera on the moon showing the Earth spin? The moon's always looking at us. It's always the same. Put a camera up there. You could put it online. It could be earth.com, Earth whatever, and it would be the number one viewed website of all time. You could have Pizza Hut and Target with their little logos on there, and it would be paid for, and they don't do it. It's a disgrace.
And this is when the Voyager, I think it was the Voyager, did a time lapse of Jupiter. You got the storm, you got clouds going one way, going another way. Coolest thing ever. But then this is the famous picture, which comes from the model, which I was just showing a minute ago. And then 2.5 years later, they showed, oh, look, we see the northern lights. That proves that Jupiter has a magnetic core, a molten magnetic core, which is also scientifically impossible. But if you look at it, none of the clouds change. It's the exact same picture, just a little darker. Okay. This again is showing that NASA's lying about planets. And then you're saying, well, why are all the other planets round? Show me a round planet. Okay. NASA's faking everything, so you can't use them. No one's ever seen it. Go look at Jupiter in the sky with your naked eyes, with binoculars, with the telescope. Okay. Ask yourself how this dusty, dirty ball is reflecting light back brighter than any star.
It's gas,
right?
By the way.
Use your mind, which they've literally trained us not to use. They've taken it away. And Brad, you're creative. You're looking into stuff. I just watched your presentation on some pyramids and stuff, and you're using your mind creatively to look at the stuff. Open it up more. Look at the lies that they're telling us. You're defending a model that you have no proof of. You just said planets around. You have no proof of that. You were told a story.
I've looked through telescopes. I've seen Saturn. I've seen Jupiter. I've seen Mars. I've seen Venus through a telescope. Those are round planets, guys. Every one of them.
And why is it so?
Well,
why is it so? Why is Venus?
Sun.
You saw Venus as a round ball.
Why is?
Yeah,
right.
it's round.
So this is what you saw. This is Saturn. I've seen it. I've zoomed in on it. These are the other planets, and this is what NASA shows us. These are cartoons. Okay, Google the latest picture of Pluto. Okay, from NASA. Again, they're rubbing it in our face because Pluto has this friggin' desert that looks like the dog Pluto. Okay, this is mockery. This is treating us like children, people that aren't able to think. Right? There are no planets. They used to be called wandering stars because they are stars. They're just like stars, but they're wandering and they have their place here within the Earth system. Okay. It's scientifically provable that the sizes and composition of these things that they tell us in sky would be invisible to us here on Earth.
Regardless,
we would not be able to see them.
We have to recognize that we have no proof of their size or their distance. It's simply been given to us. It's been handed to us on a silver platter and told that it's proof of something, and it's not, because nobody could figure that out on their own. In fact, this is my one thing for you, Brad. Go look into how they figured out the distance to the sun. And it's the biggest horseshit lie you've ever heard in your life, which is that they looked up at Venus and said, what if Venus was the same size as Earth? And then they did all their calculations, and guess what? When they went up there to find out, they got so lucky. Venus is the same size as Earth. What an amazing guess that they made of guessing for no reason. There's no reason to look at anything in the sky and guess it's any size. or else the sun and the moon are the same. They're the same size.
And how is Venus so bright? It's a gassy planet, and it's reflecting sunlight brighter than it's bright as the sun. It doesn't work that way. None of it works that way. Brad, it's a lot to take in. Love you, brother. And I'm going to end it because I can go all night and have a great time.
Yeah, I know. Guys, hit the 2-hour mark. I'm starting to turn into jello. I got to go get something to eat and shower up and do what I got to do tonight.
Brad,
thanks, Brad.
I'm going to send you a playlist of some feature-length flat Earth videos. Watch them as entertainment. Don't watch them as documentaries. Just watch them as entertainment. Turn off the TV one night when you want to kick back. Just watch one of these and see. Well, good. I mean, watch one. Some 45 minutes, hour and a half. Watch them. You might find some really interesting information, and then maybe you want to have another discussion.
All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for having me on. It's always good to exchange information, share our observations and what we know and learn. And that's how we grow as a species. We
tell us. I want to know one thing.
Many varied sources and put together our worldview. And
what's your?
I think we did that. We may be no closer. I don't think you're going to hand me over the bounty, but you're not going to hand the bounty to anybody. So.
What's your favorite?
Call it that, and have a good night, guys.
Wait, what's your favorite? What's your favorite discovery that you've found? What's your favorite uncovering that you've come across? I'm sure you've done a ton. Things that,
like here on Earth.
Yeah, something that you've found that you would. If I said, what's your best discovery, your best realization?
Oh well, I traveled around the world in one direction, and I ended up in the same place.
Yeah, that works on the
approximately around the equator too, and I've noticed.
I'll bet you anything. The
equator everywhere you go, and it sure gets cold when you get up to. I've been to Trondheim, Norway, a couple degrees from the Arctic Circle, and I've been, as I said, 1 degree within the Antarctic Circle. So I probably know this planet better than anybody you've had on the show, and I am absolutely convinced we live on a spherical.
East-west circumnavigation works perfectly on a flat Earth. What doesn't work on a flat Earth is southern circumnavigation, and no one's ever done it.
All right, guys.
Later, Brad.
You gotta get going.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
See ya. All right, bye-bye.
Oops, I don't want to do that. Oh, boy. Dave.
Oh, lordy. You're
going to have to start paying
cognitive dissonance.
You're going to have to start paying me for this shit. I'm not doing it for free anymore.
That's why I needed you, buddy. I needed you on this one.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
I don't even know what to say. I mean, he's a nice guy. He's
not a nice guy. He just the indoctrination is so deep. I mean, we were all there, but he's really, really dug in. And
I think a lot of people are like that, though. That's it. And those people just have to realize that he's going to fight it the whole way. He's not even listening. He's just going to fight it, right? And
I literally had to stop and say, stop Googling, stop trying to, listen to what I'm saying.
I don't know what he was doing over there.
Wasn't listening.
No,
listen.
It's fine. Though.
He's definitely not a shill. He believes what he's saying, and the indoctrination is really strong.
Yeah, I mean, people need to be seeking the truth in those categories. I mean, to find it, it's not. You just can't. It's like almost made that way on purpose or something. Like it's not meant for you to just stumble onto. It's not meant for somebody to tell you it. As weird as that sounds. Sorry, I'm trying to fix your little box here.
That was crazy.
Yeah, and I couldn't figure out what direction to go with him because. He is going to just argue the whole thing.
We were all over the place.
Well, and he wasn't even hearing what we were saying either. So, I mean, he's just basically arguing a whole other story. Why can't I find your picture here, brother? No, not that one. Left guess. No.
Anybody in the chat have?
I got to check the super chats to see if there's any. There might not be any. They probably are demanding money from me at this point.
They're probably billing you.
Excuse me, sir. That'll be $100 for watching that. No, I thought that I would have liked to got into a little bit more of the Antarctic stuff because I think he proved that they didn't go anywhere. They went to the little edge.
He went there, and that's it.
That's it. There's a little edge. And I think what you described it well when you talked about it being the edge. Although if you're talking about flat Earth, people are going to get the wrong idea. But the way that you talk about that, you really could just call all that 90. So no matter where you flew. You would hit 90 degrees according to whatever you're using, compass or your GPS.
I kind of showed him that with the animation of it coming around, but it was too cool, cool for him to deal with.
Well, then once you said edge, he laughed like crazy because, of course, he doesn't want to.
Yeah, that was a workout.
But the ice shelves,
that was a workout.
And I mean, I'm happy I found this. I haven't found this site in a while, but I just showed that they're, again, faking everything. So it just
A
makes
couple
no sense.
times he was scratching his head. A couple times
Yeah.
I thought he was looking.
But that's the kind of thing where something will come up down the road.
Jaron, your screen is split.
No, it's not. I fixed it.
Yeah, I'm here. I can see myself above myself. Oh, no. I don't know.
Jeez.
Is it? People in the chat are saying it's split.
No, I fixed it. It was because he left, and I fixed it.
Oh, okay.
A little bit of time. But where was that one I was just watching? That was 2016, July, April to June. Oh yeah, this April one is just hilarious to me. I mean, how would anybody explain this? What we saw here. So if you go to April 20th, look at the distance. I mean, this is classic fakery. Here, so go to 420. Okay, right here. 420 is right there. I know people can't see. I'll move it up in a second.
I love how, it's like, oh, well, NASA's just justify their budget.
But he'll believe in this, in all the planets and everything. Okay,
yeah.
So watch this. This is on 419, 420. Watch where the sun is. Okay. So right there, it's like right on the horizon. Maybe we could say it's a little bit above. My mouse pointer worth.
Okay.
That's on the 20th. Now here's the 21st. Okay, a little higher. Now the 22nd. Way higher. 23rd. The sun cannot move. 24th. It cannot move that. Look at that. 25th.
And this is from the South Pole, supposedly, because it's going parallel with the horizon.
Yeah. Look how high that is versus just 4 days. This is 26. So 6 days ago it was here. I mean, it's just.
Why don't they turn around and follow it?
Oh, that's too hard. You got to cut out the camera.
Why don't they follow it?
Who's in charge of turning off the camera and turning it on every goddamn day? Why do you have to have that person? Just wasting. So stupid. I mean, it'd be so easy to solve some of these problems. If they wanted to prove the globe Earth, it'd be done yesterday. And they don't do it. So what are you supposed to believe? Again, you could very easily be like him and just say, no, I've been to Antarctica and I believe all these things that they tell us, and I'm just going to eat it up and not question any of it. The sun and moon distance is such a lie. The way they describe is so dumb when they describe, they waited for a half moon, and then they knew that the angle between the Earth and the sun and the moon was 90 degrees. All they needed to do was measure their angle to the sun, and they came up with 89.4. It's like, what are you talking about? How can you measure, if we're looking at a half moon, and we say, there's the sun, how can you measure your angle to the sun? It's ridiculous. And it's 89.9, 89.7. So you're talking about 90 degrees of straight. It's just a little bit over. They couldn't have figured that out, guys, 2,000 years ago. You couldn't figure it out today. And yet, that's the story of, like you said, they figured out the distance to the moon. Okay, well, how did they do that? Again, the story doesn't even make sense anymore. And if you just go back and look at Edwin Hubble and look at all these, the whole storyline falls apart. It's just not true. And if they're lying to you, it's for a reason, not to get you the truth across. I don't even think any of those people exist anymore. I'm starting to, my time frame is shortening up, Dave. But, it used to be like people before 1400 I'm not going to believe in. Then it was 1500. Then it was 1600. Now it's like Newton. It sounds like a good story.
Do you listen to David Avocado Wolf yet on Crow?
No, I heard it's really good.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Everybody sign up for Crow. Listen to David Avocado Wolf.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's really
Man.
well read. And now,
hey, can we get him on the Baby Truther show?
Yeah, absolutely. He'll come on whenever I want.
Hey, let's do that.
He's been, what the hell's going on here? It's just ridiculous. I got to look back at these. I put it in t.me/Jaronism links if somebody wants to play with it, because it's still funny that it's just moving all over the place. That's not how things work. So these are supposed to be stars? Yeah. I guess. Now, why don't we ever see a moon? What did you say today? You said something about the moon. How did it drop back down there? Now it's going up and down. Where is
this moon?
Would it go as high as what date would it hit?
Why don't we see the moon?
I don't have any idea. I think this whole thing's fake. The whole thing's fake.
Crazy.
But if they're going to fake it, why not just fake the 24 hours? Why not just fake the whole fucking camera light and the whole flags and shit? Why do the halfway? Why keep cutting it out?
Because how they can't fake it. They can't make it look real faking it.
And look, if people don't see, this is the clock, and you watch it here, it's going 21, 22, 23, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 21, 22, 23. So it's just skipping 12 hours a day for no apparent reason. And like here's January, you should see a 24-hour sun. How can they not have one freaking time that you'd be able to see the 24-hour sun? I mean, even if it's fake, just show me once. And they can never do it. You can look at the time, and the time just, here comes the sun, and then click, sets resets. Comes the sun, click. And I think that's because the sun comes like this. And it does go off in this direction, so we do see the shadows rope around to our right a little bit, but then it cuts. See? Cut. It's because the sun's going off. It's going that way.
Antarctic.
Antarctic. Yep. I thought your description of the seasons was decent. You've done better. Your little ball with the he wasn't listening to you, so what the hell?
He wasn't listening, so I just had to keep repeating
he was
myself.
doing this. I am listening to you. I'm watching everything.
Yeah. I mean, if the sun is above you at 90 degrees on the horizon, it should be 1 degree.
Right.
How come people can't get that? How come it's warm at 1 degree when it's skimming across? Okay. The seasons is all you need to prove the Earth is not a globe.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
And isn't it true that all the deserts are right underneath the tropics? Because that's where the sun kind of sits for a while. Think about it.
Well, everything in between the tropics, the sun passes over twice a year.
Yeah,
but everything outside.
But it sits there. It sits on the tropic the longest, right?
You mean on the Tropic of Cancer and on the Tropic of Capricorn?
Yeah, I think if you look underneath, here's a map. If you look on the map, I think, isn't it? Let me move this up here. So I think that you can't really see it there, but let's see.
No, I don't. Yeah,
look at. That's exactly where all the sun is. It's where it burns the Earth. Look at, right?
Interesting.
Look at. So that's where, because think about it. If the sun comes this way, then it stays here. And then goes
just
back.
For a little bit. I mean, it's scorching it just a little bit. Think about this.
But hold on, Dave. But think about it. It's getting close here. It's getting hot there. It's getting hot there. And it has to get there. Then it has to come back. Hot. That's way different than these places because these places don't have back-to-back.
Have time to cool off. Right. They have time for it to cool off. Right. Interesting.
Oh, look at how we're spinning. It's fantastic.
It's wobbling too.
So fun. And the atmosphere stays right with it.
He couldn't grasp the whole Polaris thing. And the shafts.
No, and you know what? We got to come up with a way to show the stars because people always get stuck on that. And then you bring up the Home Depot, like, I can't think about that. It's like, so it doesn't mean just because you can't see stars in some place. And you know what? I was going to go there with him. He also wanted to do, it's the dumbest belief. Number one, why can't we see Japan? Number one dumb belief that I can't see.
What's big enough in Japan to see?
Nothing.
Even if you could see it.
No, and you can't see through atmosphere when it's foggy. And you think you're going to see through 2,500 miles of ocean? I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then the other one is the fact that people think the only way you can see further is because you're on a ball when you get up high. Like as if it doesn't work on a flat plane. As if.
Yeah, it's a hard one for people to get.
I mean, you think a snake can look on the floor of Home Depot and see as far as you can? No, of course not. Their horizon would be very close to them. You know?
They don't get it. They don't get that the horizon ramps up.
Yeah, I don't know how you necessarily show. Although, did you watch P-Brain's video recently? Was pretty good about that. He described that the reason that it rises to our eye level, and it actually kind of, I think I've talked about this before. When you go to the beach, it's crazy to imagine that all that water is underneath your feet because it doesn't look like that, and that's just perspective. It's just because of the way our eyes work that everything below your eye line goes to your eye line, and everything above it goes.
You mentioned when you're driving in California in like a canyon area. And you look out, it looks like the whole ocean was coming in towards you. I've been there. I know exactly what you're talking
scary as shit
about. When you're in, when the canyon walls are surrounding you like that, it looks like the whole ocean is coming at you above your head or up to your eye level.
Yeah, you'll like flip out because you look out and it looks like it's going to come over that mountain. It's the scariest.
You have to,
ever.
You have to sort that out in your head.
I think we tried to film it too, and it didn't translate. But when looking,
no, it's like taking a picture of the giant moon. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Yeah,
it's all the way you see.
Have you seen that one? Everyone's seeing a video that the girl's driving down some road and there's like a building that is like really small, and then as you get
I have one. I have that happening right here in my town.
Really? Well,
at my beach. I filmed it. It's the same thing.
That's crazy.
It's the same thing. So the building is small, and then as you get no, it's big, and as you get closer, it gets smaller and smaller.
Yeah, and that's
until it's tiny,
and then it's like tiny out in the water, but big back is like taking up the whole view.
Tiny.
Oh man. Yeah, and I mean, I guess it's hard to on somebody's first day. We should have walked him slower through some of the stuff because he didn't understand that.
I think we did fine.
Going over.
We went all over. We could have stuck on one point and argued the whole time. I'm glad that we covered a lot of topics. And what was his best proof? Planets are round.
That one. I mean, his Antarctica proof. I mean, again, he didn't really say he saw the sun go around in a circle.
No.
So, I mean,
he didn't.
I'd have to go down there and see it myself. I'd really have to, because I don't think I'm going to ever trust any video. I've seen too many faked. Why they have to? I was on Twitter the other day talking to some guy about that video because he tried to play that video as proof, and I told him, "Look, we've already debunked it. Look at the clouds repeat." He's like, "Of course the clouds repeat because it's a 24-hour time lapse." I'm like, "Dipshit, go find me one other 24-hour time lapse that shows the sun repeating and the clouds repeating." I said, "You're just making excuses now for them." I said. You just said, of course it does, but you can't find me one other 24-hour video that shows repeating clouds. Why is that? And they run away because they just make answers that make them feel better about their beliefs. They don't want to actually, because I know what happens. As soon as you see that and you're like, this shit's fake, and you start really looking into it with the mindset of I'm going to go prove this stuff is fake, then you're going to end up a flat earther. So
crazy.
People don't want to do that. All right, guys. Let me check if there's any super chats before I say rude things. What happened here?
There's one on YouTube asking if you got your coffee.
My coffee? No.
Did you get the coffee I sent from Bear Pelagic Bear?
Coffee? No. Oh wait, is it Bear Pelagic Bear? From what city?
I don't know, man.
I have 2 letters here, but I haven't opened them. If you mailed it this week, I got that. I do have this, Dave. I can't wait to do this. I'm going to surprise everybody tomorrow with something fun. So this is that hat I was telling you about. Freaking sweet. So you can I can make this say whatever I want. Dave sucks dick. It's going to be all over this hat you watch.
Nice.
Tomorrow.
Nice. Sweet.
So
I like that.
It's got my logo on the back. But yeah, you turn on the little power here. And
is that from THC?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty dope. But it comes with an app, and then you can put whatever you want.
Oh, so it does it Bluetooth?
Yeah, and you can draw shit. I can draw a penis coming on your head, and that's going to be my thing tomorrow when I go.
Don't
dope.
do that.
Why not? It's funny. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome.
Childish, my friend.
I am childish. That's how we stay young. Okay, how do you turn this off? So that's pretty cool. Anyway.
Can you put video on it? Can you Bluetooth video?
I don't think so. Put my own streams on there. I don't think it's that good.
Is it 4K? Is it 4K?
Yeah, it's 4K. Cheap too. Water is level. Did you talk about that? Yeah, we brought it up, but
didn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
A lot of cognitive dissonance. I could tell he burnt out at the end, so that's why he ended it.
And he also sees the curvature from the plane. I mean, that's a classic one. I guess these are lies we tell ourselves. I don't know.
Listen, Brad's an honest guy, and he honestly believes what he's saying.
I believe that he honestly believes that.
Hello everyone, Strawman Dan here. And before I start, I just want to tell you all about what is by far my favourite app of all time. Yes, you guessed it, it's the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon and Zodiac Clock app. I know, for years I have been anti-Flat Earth with my highly edited weekly anti-Flat Earth scripted rants. But after downloading this app, wow, I'm blown away. Earth is a horizontal level plane and I'm a complete douchebag. I'm sorry.